Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on the Owen Report today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, some drama maybe inside the White House administration right now. Rumors are swirling. And by the way, just so you understand, the rumors have been swirling about Kash Patel. The rumors have been swirling about Dan Bongino. The rumors have been swirling about Pam Bondi. But something has happened in the last 24 hours that the White House is feeling like they need to address these rumors and assure you that nobody is going anywhere. Do you believe that? I'm not so sure I do. I think President Trump is going to be faced with a very interesting decision-making period over the holiday season, whether it's time to have a major makeover of the administration or stick to the players that are in the game right now that you might argue aren't really delivering. I think you could make that argument that they are not delivering. So we may look at that as it seems like all hands on deck right now inside of the White House with Caroline Leavitt and others to try to assure you that everything is fine. And so that's how you know everything is not fine, when they're trying to assure you that everything is fine. All right. Pam Bondi is going to appeal the decision to toss the Letitia James and James Comey case. Now, this has not officially been filed, but she has announced that that is the intention of the Department of Justice. We're going to get a take from Marjorie Taylor Greene today, who's getting backed up by Kevin McCarthy, going in front of the media to back up MTG. We'll hear from him. We got a lot of clips. We're going to hear from Tim Burchett on some waste, fraud, and abuse that he's trying to stop inside the government. We'll go to the White House, where President Trump pardoned a couple turkeys today. That's not meant to be double entendre, but I guess a lot of turkeys are getting pardons, huh? A lot of turkeys are getting pardons, maybe more to come. So we'll listen to the president today from the Rose Garden, pardoning the turkeys, as is Thanksgiving tradition. Crazy to think you're 2 days away from Thanksgiving. Can you believe that? Wait till you see the poll numbers. What percentage of Americans do you think, what current percentage of Americans do you think don't trust the government? What do you think? Anything less than 100 is a failure, but what do you think? Kash Patel, he's in the hot seat, so he's doing an interview with Catherine Herridge. We got some clips on that. We're going to hear from Representative Thomas Massey in response. We got some economic news. I actually think I need to add some to my stack. It's not good. The news is not good. You hate to see these headlines that we've been covering. Americans are now going into debt. They're defaulting on their utility payments. Job losses accelerate, consumer confidence spirals, and I guess President Trump's going to have some explaining to do, because now the numbers claim that the Thanksgiving meal price is up 24%. Now, nobody's reporting on the same thing when they talk about these prices, and that's why there's so much confusion. But either way, it's a messaging issue that the White House has. So that's why they're all on board today. So don't be surprised if somebody comes out and makes a statement to tell you about how low the price of Thanksgiving is going to be soon in response to these headlines today. Leftist judicial reform policy failures across the board. I got a ton of geopolitical news. A ton of geopolitical news, especially with the peace update in Ukraine. And then we got some odds and ends, some strangeness in the news today. All of that and more coming up on today's Owen Report.
This news update was brought to you by OwenSchroyer.store, the official site for Owen Report merchandise.
Folks, are you a water snob like me? Are you? You should be. Why would you not be, actually? Why would you not be a water snob? Have you thought about what's in your tap water? Do you care? You might want to read some of these studies that show what is in the water. It might change your mind. It might make you think about going to CovePure.com/Owen. What are these studies? Well, there is a research paper showing how atrazine, a common pesticide you may have heard of before, disrupts hormones in frogs. And you know what? Disrupts it in humans as well. That's why at my house, we rely on CovePure to remove these nasty contaminants from our drinking water. CovePure filters our water in 4 stages and is certified to remove up to 99% of impurities. And not to mention, it looks amazing, very sleek, looks like it's right out of the future. You're going to feel like you're in the future. You can put it in your office, take care of your employees, put it in your kitchen, take care of your friends, your family. But yes, this water filter is right out of the future, folks. You can choose the temperature you want your water at. You can choose the exact amount of water you want. Nothing else like it. Not to mention, it has the best filtration system, and then it realkalizes the water afterwards, part of its 4-stage filtration process. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. Now, right now, for my audience listening to this right now, I'm happy to share that CovePure is giving this audience a special discount of $250 off. When you go to CovePure.com/Owen, you can get $250 off your CovePure unit. Now, I got to tell you, folks, if you're a tea drinker or you like that instant coffee that I'm always talking about, you need to have hot water available on demand. And the CovePure water filtration system delivers. Now, if you're concerned, you want scalding hot water coming out of your machine, maybe you got kids around, you're worried that, well, I don't want them to accidentally get scalding hot water on them or the pet or something. Well, guess what? It has a child lock on it. That's how sleek and from the future this thing is. It has a safety lock on it. So if you do want to get your hot water for your tea, if you do want to get your hot water for your instant coffee, before it disperses, there's a lock on there to make sure that the kiddos can't burn themselves with the hot water. You push that lock, it unlocks it, boom, you got hot water for your tea or your coffee. Take advantage of this special right now. $250 off, CovePure.com/Owen. Take your water filtration to the future with me at CovePure.com/Owen.
Turn my system on.
Extra dimensional and multi-universal. Here's your host, Owen Schroyer.
All right. It's damage control. It's damage control in DC. And I don't know why there seems to be so much panic on this today. I can tell you, I've been hearing rumors about the, I guess, resignation. I don't know if that's the right word, but there have been rumors about Dan Bongino leaving the FBI for months. I don't get too much into this stuff because I'm not in the DC swamp bubble. I'm not inside the Beltway. So I have to weigh what I decide to bring to air or not based off of whether or not I think it's a good, a high percentage pitch, So if I think it's a high percentage pitch to swing at, then I'll bring it to air. If I'm not sure, then I decide to leave it. But why do I bring this up? Well, there's a bunch of, for whatever reason, in the last 24 hours, there is a bunch of buzz about changes happening in Washington, D.C., specifically the names Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino are getting brought up. Now, Bongino has been pretty silent lately. The last big splash he made was when he posted that corrupt public officials will not be tolerated. Now, since then, corrupt public officials are still being tolerated. And the James Comey, Letitia James case, the James case, that'd be a lot easier. Can you just call it the James case? Make it a lot easier on us. The double J case. Well, that got tossed. Pam Bondi says, okay, well, we're going to appeal. It's hard to take anything they're doing seriously regarding that, considering that they put Halligan in charge. And look, this is another one where it's like, I don't even know the value of this. I don't even know what it means. But I have to say, what are the odds, as we're learning now, Trump has basically surrounded himself with models, that these women are all connected to the modeling agencies that he used to run. It's like, is it Bondi? Lindsay Halligan is a former Trump model. She used to be on the same circuit with Erica Francevier, or however you said her name, now Erica Kirk. So I don't know. It's like, hey, man, I like hot chicks too, but I also like arresting deep state criminals. So, okay, we got Pam Blondie out there. We got Ice Barbie, Kristi Noem out there. We got the hot prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, the former model. It's like, all right, I like hot chicks too, Mr. President. We get it. Maybe there's not many things up there. Not too many things as great as hot chicks, right, Mr. President? But I think I'll take arresting the deep state over hot chicks. I think most people would probably take deep state arrests and results with this administration over the hot chicks. I don't know. If I want hot chicks, I'll go to the UT football game. If I want hot chicks, I'll go downtown tonight. Okay. I want deep state arrests. I want results. But to get back to the point, so Caroline Leavitt decides she needs to address this. Caroline Leavitt addressing the rumors. Nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere. Well, I don't know about all that. Like I said, these rumors have been swirling for months, folks. Are they rumors? Is there anything to it? I don't know. I haven't made a big fuss about it. But now that the rumors are back and Caroline Leavitt is responding to them, tells me there's some discomfort. Tells me there's some discomfort in D.C. There's some discomfort with the administration. And rightfully so. Trump can come out and say the GOP is more united than ever. Trump can come out and say, oh, my approval ratings are an all-time high. Everybody knows these things are not true, no matter how many times he says them. Everybody knows they're not true. So eventually, President Trump, I think, is going to have to weigh the decision of whether or not he needs to shake things up in this administration for his own sake. Because I don't think the approval rating of Pam Bondi or Kash Patel or Dan Bongino is going up. And I'm not sure how much President Trump appreciates the FBI saying nothing to see here in the Thomas Crooks case. I'm not so sure he appreciates that. Now, I don't expect anything to happen until probably after the holidays. Probably not until next year. But you are going to see a shakeup at the Federal Reserve. Maybe President Trump just decides to shake it all up. But I don't know. I can't help but feel that there's it's like when they're not addressing these things, I feel like nothing is really going on. But then when they do address these things, that's when I start to think, okay, maybe there's something to it. So if I didn't see the White House and Caroline Leavitt making press statements today about how nobody's going anywhere, everybody's safe, the administration is great, If I didn't see that today, I'd probably just consider these things rumors and not be reporting on it. But because I saw that, now I think there might be something to it. Maybe that's just the contrarian in me. I can't subdue it. That's what my instincts tell me. Now that they're addressing it, I think there might be something to it. But maybe it's what you need, you know? Sometimes when a season is going bad, you need a little change up. You change the manager, you make a big trade, whatever the deal is, to try to get a little new energy, get a little new vibe. Sometimes just a change can build confidence where it's lacking. So, okay, we will hear from Kash Patel. I got to say, though, it's just seems like there's still a honeymoon phase happening here with Kash Patel, doesn't it? It feels like there's still kind of a honeymoon phase happening with Kash. Why is Kash Patel sitting down for interviews with Catherine Herridge? Okay. The FBI director wants to have a media footprint. Kash Patel's always had a media footprint. Okay. But with the backdrop of the lawsuits with his girlfriend and the backdrop of the private planes and the flights, not getting enough results, Kash. Not getting enough results. And you didn't really do yourself any favors leading into this, talking about the Epstein list and how important it was, talking about abolishing the FBI, shutting it down, turning it into a museum. So you kind of set yourself up for failure, because now anything short of that is going to be considered a letdown. So is there anything to this? Are the rumors true? Are we going to see major sea changes next year? What is the real fate of Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino? Now, the rumors are, I don't know why, perhaps because Andrew Bailey has a track record of results in the state of Missouri as Attorney General. Maybe that's why his name is getting floated around for the FBI. But that's what we need. We need results. We need results. And the only results that I think this administration can point to and unequivocally say, here are results, here is a success story. It seems like right now the only direction they can point for that is the border. The border is secure and illegal immigration is down. Virtually done, virtually zero. And of course, you'll have gotaways and people that are getting over at the dark of night where there's not a wall. But for all intents and purposes, this administration has closed the border. They've taken care of the illegal immigration issue. Now, they got a problem with deportations, but you can't exactly blame the administration for that issue. But other than that, I don't know where they can point. And the problem that I have is when I see this, they say, well, look at the success at the border. And I say, well, is that really success? Should I really be celebrating what should already be mandatory? Should I really be celebrating something that should already be the status quo? Why should I be celebrating border security? That should be the status quo. That should be the normal issue, is that we don't have illegal immigration. So it's not really something that I don't think you can feather your nest with it. It's nice to say, yes, we've had success here. It's nice to say, yes, this was a big campaign issue and we followed through. But can you really hang your hat on that right now as the administration? If you get into year 2 of this administration and the only thing you can hang your hat on is closing the borders, you got problems. You got problems. And you're going to have to address these problems. And in order to address these problems, you're going to have to bring in new personnel. You're going to have to bring in new personnel. I don't know. Ask President Trump. Mr. President, Is 0 deep state arrests a good number for you? Are 0 deep state arrests a good number for you 1 year into your administration? Folks, we're flying. It's Thanksgiving this week. We're flying. It's going to be 2026 before you can even blink an eye. You're going to have reindeer flying around. You're going to have snow. You're going to have Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa in the chimney. It's all happening. It's all here. 2026 is right around the corner, folks. You're almost 1 year in. 0 deep state arrests. And the only thing the administration can hang their hat on right now is the closed border. Don't tell me they can hang their hat on the economy. They can't. Don't tell me they can hang their hat on the tariffs and the trade deals. They can't. Now, maybe they can in a year if these things manifest into the vision of the administration, but they can't right now. Deep state arrests, there are none. The biggest case you had going, Letitia James, James Comey, they're going to walk. No, that's not the pace. That's not the pace a year in. Hey, we secured the border. That's not going to cut it. So if you're President Trump, are you saying, I'm sticking with my team? I'm sticking with my team. I'm going to give them more time. Or are you looking at the situation ahead of the midterms and saying, I got to make a change now. I got to get results before the midterms because now there's no guarantee after the midterms that the Republicans are going to have control of the House, which could result in some issues, let's say. So no, now that I see Caroline Leavitt addressing these things today, I'm not so sure they are rumors. Now I'm starting to think there might be something to them. What about Susie Wiles? What about Susie Wiles? Do you think there's any chance that you might get the change there? Could that be the change that's the most necessary? Well, if I was President Trump, I'd probably be having meetings right after Thanksgiving. And I'd call everybody in, private meetings, one-on-one. And I'd just say, what are we doing here? What is your vision for the next 2 months? Because when we hit the 1 year mark for this administration, I'm going to be doing some serious reviews. And we may have to bring in some new personnel. And I need to know if you're going to be an effective part of this team. Or maybe Trump's just given up. I don't think that's the case, but we're weighing all the options, aren't we? So what do you think? Caroline Leavitt addressing the rumors today tells me that there's something else going on. And I can tell you there's people buzzing. There's people buzzing in D.C. trying to figure out where is this information coming from? Who's leaking this information? Who's telling people? Folks, the rumors have been going around for months. It's nothing new. They've been going around. And how could they not? With the approval rating going down, results a bare minimum, of course the rumors are swirling. President Trump is known for clearinghouse, known for firing people. So it feels like it's inevitable no matter what. But I'd say it's time. I would say it's time. It's time, Mr. President. Let's get some new personnel in there. These guys have had their chance. And we're just not getting the results. We're just not getting the results. So that brings us to conclusions, ladies and gentlemen. Conclusions about the administration. Conclusions about the Republican Party. And I think a lot of people feel the way Tucker Carlson feels, what he expresses in this video with Sean Ryan about where the Republican Party is at. Tell me if this resonates with you from Tucker Carlson.
And on the Republican Party, which is almost to the point where it's just useless, and I'm going to have to oppose it because I hate them too much, but because they're such betrayers. But anyway, in the Republican Party, it's like, you a socialist? Are you from Mondani? No, not really a socialist. Just I don't want any more dollar stores. I don't want high density housing in my neighborhood. I don't want any more fucking strip malls that nobody goes to. No more karate studios and vape shops. Like, how about no? Oh, you socialist? You don't believe in the free market because you bribed a fucking county commissioner to build more garbage? You don't even live here?
Mm-hmm.
In a normal society, we'd like burn your strip mall down. So you can't do that here. You can't turn my women into prostitutes. Sorry, OnlyFans. And you can't destroy the landscape that I live in. No. How about no? That's not crazy, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, no.
And you can't take all my tax dollars and then refuse to do anything about child molestation. Like the whole reason you exist, county commissioners, is to protect my daughters from getting molested, but you won't because, like, why?
All right, so let's go back to the beginning. What he says here in the first couple seconds is the important part here. This is where I think a lot of people are at.
And on the Republican Party, which is almost to the point where it's just useless, and I'm going to have to oppose it.
The Republican Party is the Republican Party is useless. They're such betrayers. Hard to deny. Hard to deny, ladies and gentlemen. And whether or not you agree with the betrayer aspect of that, I don't know how you can disagree with the useless aspect. You want to debate betrayers or not? Okay. Useless? I don't know. That doesn't seem up for debate. That seems pretty conclusive that the Republican Party is useless at this point. Especially what we've seen with a Republican majority in the House, in the Senate, and a Republican Party president. And yet what? What do they have to show for it? And if you're keeping score at home, look at the results the Democrats got when they had the House, the Senate, and the White House. Look at the results that they got. They scored a lot more points than the Republicans are. And you know what? You could argue, hey, it's a good thing that the Republicans aren't acting that way. But no, they are acting that way. They just aren't doing it for our own interests. They're doing it for foreign interests. They're doing it for special interests. They're doing it for foreign policy. They're doing it for big tech policy. Hell, they're doing it for big pharma policy. So they're scoring points on the board, just not for we the people. And that's why Tucker Carlson says they're useless and they're betrayers. And I think a lot of people are starting to agree. And, you know, they can try to bury this failure with the Letitia James and the James Comey case. They can try to bury this. And we'll see if they end up appealing, like Bondi claims that they are. But that's a mess. That's an embarrassment. And somebody's going to owe an explanation to the American people why you put in a prosecutor with no experience to handle this case. Now, again, my theory was nobody else wanted to take it. And Halligan said, you know, I'll take it. This is ridiculous. But folks, Pam Bondi is so asleep at the switch on this deal. They got her on a technicality. I don't even know if she'll be able to appeal, folks. I really don't. I don't think this appeal is going to work. How can you be so inept if you're Pam Bondi? Folks, they got her on a technicality. Lindsay Halligan was never approved by the Senate. And so because of that, she had a term limit, let's say. She had a term limit status. I think it was 120 days. So she had 120 days of a limit to operate as a prosecutor because she wasn't confirmed by the Senate. She was handling this case outside of her term limit. So Pam Bondi, literally, this whole thing was set up to fail. And so you have to ask why. Is that incompetence on Pam Bondi's part? Which, if that's the case, you're fired. Get out of here. That is intolerable. So now I have to sit here and I have to say, okay, if Pam Bondi is so inept, if Pam Bondi is so incompetent that she puts in a prosecutor set up to fail on a technicality, Halligan doesn't even get a chance So you can say, well, she has no prosecutorial experience. Well, okay, fine. You got to get your start somewhere. She was set up to fail by Pam Bondi on a technicality, folks. On a technicality. It's not even up for debate. The judge was able to toss this thing on a technicality. I don't even think you're going to be able to appeal. So how in the hell can Trump excuse that? How can you let Pam Bondi continue to operate when apparently she's so incompetent that she can't even put a prosecutor on the most important case right now when it comes to the deep state and the political targeting of Donald Trump, the political persecution of the president? How can Pam Bondi be so incompetent that she puts a prosecutor in charge of that case that can't even legally handle the case and it gets tossed? How can she be so incompetent? And if you're President Trump and you don't fire her for this, I'm looking at you and I'm saying, what gives, President Trump? Did you want this case to fail? How can you support such incompetence? It doesn't make sense. So maybe this will be it. If this appeal fails, which I'd say it's probably going to fail. If I was a betting man, I'd say the appeal is going to fail. Now, maybe they can make a pitch to the judge and say, we'll bring in a different prosecutor. But even that's embarrassing. Even that's admitting incompetence and failure. But if you're President Trump and this appeal fails, if and when she files it, how do you not fire Pam Bondi? Honestly. I saw a hit today on Fox News. I saw a hit. They said, an investigation is being launched into the anti-Turning Point USA protests at Berkeley University. And I'm sitting here scratching myself. That was a month ago. What are you talking about? She said that a month ago. What do you mean it's breaking news? That's a month ago. I should be getting results. This is not breaking news that a month ago Pam Bondi said she's investigating it. Now a month has passed. Now we should be getting arrests. Now we should be seeing people in handcuffs. Now we should be seeing the RICO investigations of the people that are funding and organizing these riots. These criminal riots obstructing law enforcement. And they come out on Fox News, and I'm sure it was right out of the White House. Hey, we need some good press. I guarantee you, hey, we'll give you access to Pam Bondi, but we need some good press right now. So tell the people that we're investigating. What? That was last month. What do you mean you're investigating? The investigation has been ongoing for a month. I want results. We want arrests. And they come on Fox News. And this is how they trick you, by the way. This is how they trick the audience that doesn't know any better. They just recycle a headline from a month ago, and these people have the memory of a goldfish. They, oh wow, Pam Bondi's investigating. Way to go, Pam. No, see, this is supposed to be a linear timeline of events. The investigation was a month ago. Now you should be hearing about arrests. No, you're just hearing about the investigation again. Pam Bondi seems to be investigating a lot of things. Very little results. And now it looks like either an intentional spike of the Comey-James case or a ludicrous level of incompetence from Pam Bondi, allowing a judge to toss it on a basic technicality. Somebody explain that to me. And if she doesn't get fired, eventually a lot of this blame falls on President Trump. There's no other way to put it, folks. There's no other way to put it. If you're going to put yourself in a position to fail, then you have nobody but yourself to blame. So maybe there will be some shakeups next year. Maybe the rumors are true. Who should be the first to go? Who's been the worst? Pam Bondi? Probably. From the Epstein debacle to the investigation after investigation after investigation, to the little results, to the total incompetence on the Letitia James Comey case, I think Bondi's got to be the first to go. And if you want to send a shockwave, and maybe that's what you do, Maybe you send a shockwave by firing Bondi, and that'll put a fire under the rest of their asses. But I don't see how you can run with Pam Bondi anymore. In 2026, Pam Bondi has got to go. She's got to go. And this should be the last straw. Hey guys, I need some good press. Can you announce I'm launching an investigation? I'll come on air with you. It'll be good for ratings. Pam, that investigation is from last month. We should be getting results now. No, but I need some press. Okay. Do you want to talk about the Letitia James Comey case? No, of course not. We want to talk about how bad the left is. Please, I need some good press. Bondi's got to go. She's got to go. And by the way, it'd be very popular if you fired Pam Bondi. She doesn't have a very good approval rating, folks. But at some point, if you don't put yourself in a position for success, then you are to blame. And if you don't put yourself in position for survival, same story. You're to blame. Folks, I have to tell you, if you have done nothing for emergency preparedness, if you have done nothing to prepare for an emergency food, emergency supplies, if you've done absolutely nothing, if you haven't even began to check off any of those boxes, now's the time to do it at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. Here's why. The Black Friday Survival Special. All right? So if you haven't checked any of the boxes, no emergency food, no emergency supplies, no emergency water filters, the Black Friday Survival Special will help you to start checking those boxes. So here's what you got. A 4-week emergency food supply plus $150 worth of free gifts, including everything you need to prepare your emergency meals, like a cook stove, fuel, and fire starters, plus a water purifier, a bug out bag, and more. It's the complete survival kit your family needs to ride out natural disasters, civil unrest, or anything worse. Also a great Christmas gift for friends and family. If they haven't prepared, help them get prepared. It's only available through Black Friday, folks, so that's coming up here. It's flying. The calendar's flying by. Black Friday this month. So it's only available through this Friday, folks. Head to mypatriotsupply.com/Owen to check out everything that's included. With all the uncertainty in the world right now, we simply can't afford to be unprepared. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Owen and get prepared today. Folks, I'm telling you, if you've done nothing, if you just have not done anything when it comes to emergency preparedness, emergency food supplies, emergency gear, perfect way to just get started, to just have something. Just have something for an emergency, folks. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. And you can look at everything that comes in this kit, by the way, right here at the website. It's all right there, the Black Friday Survival Special. But it's over after this week. It's over after this week, so take advantage while it's still there. mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. All right, what do you think? What do you think federal government approval ratings are at right now? Huh? And anything short of 100% is probably too low. Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports, he just posted this last evening. Check out these numbers. You could still say they're rookie numbers. In general, how corrupt is the federal government? 44% of Americans say very corrupt. 36% of Americans say somewhat corrupt. Well, I think my math adds that up to 80%. We got to up those numbers. Those are rookie numbers. Only 80% of the people think the government is corrupt. That should be no lower than 90. Imagine the 11% not very corrupt. 3% say not at all corrupt. Those people vote. 5% say not sure. I don't know what's worse. What's worse, to be not sure if the government is corrupt or to think that the government is not at all corrupt? How can you be that dumb? That's like, can we pull those people aside for a study? Like, wow, you don't think the government is corrupt? Incredible. Fascinating. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Federal agencies such as the FBI and CIA need major reform. 45% strongly agree. 31% somewhat agree. So that's 76% of the people believe that the FBI and the CIA need major reform. All right. All right. Now, this is not going to be so good right now for the administration. But again, you have nobody to blame but yourself. Which party do you trust more to handle issues of government corruption and government reform? Right now, 43% trust Democrats. They trust Democrats. And you have to understand public perception, folks. Not everybody follows political news every day like you do. Not everybody cares as much as you do. So it's all about perception. And the public perception right now is that the Republicans are doing nothing in terms of handling government corruption. Nothing. And even though you might sit here and say, well, it's the Democrats that are corrupt, everybody knows it. I'm not going to argue against you, but that's not the public perception. The public perception is who's ever in power is corrupt. Right now, the Republicans are in power, so they're viewed as corrupt. So if they're not hearing any news about deep state arrests, if they're not seeing anything about major government reform, then guess what? People are going to say that the Republicans are corrupt, and now they want the Democrats to be in office to deal with the Republican corruption. That's the pendulum that goes back and forth. And you've got the whole Doge issue. Doge, for all intents and purposes, is dead. Okay? It's dead. And if you want to prove me wrong, show me. Show me $1 trillion in Doge cuts. And don't tell me it's not possible. We know it's possible. When Doge was humming along and producing receipts, we saw the potential for $1 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse being saved. And you shut it down. And now they come out and they say, oh, no, Doge is not dead. Doge is still operating. And they say, look, we've saved $500 million. Wow, okay. $500 million. Yeah, let me know when that's $500 billion. And then you can tell me how great Doge has been. So you see, they're now running these cover operations. It's like, oh yeah, Doge isn't doing anything. Yes, it is. Well, if Doge was doing something, you wouldn't have to tell me it's doing something. If Doge was actually out here doing what we wanted it to do, you wouldn't have to tell me that Doge is out here doing what I wanted it to do. It'd be doing it. So no, Doge, for all intents and purposes, is dead. You're not going to lie your way out of this bad press. So if you want us to believe that Doge is still operating, then show us the results. Because it seems like it was operating and things were humming along. And then all of a sudden, people wanted Elon Musk out. And then the team that Elon Musk brought in, they didn't want to work for anybody else but Elon. And then things went silent. And then there was more foreign aid. And all of a sudden, the waste, the fraud, the abuse, all the audits, everything we were told was going to happen, we were looking at almost $1 trillion in savings, and then it was just gone. And so people report like, gee, what happened to Doge? And somebody from DC says, yeah, it's not working anymore. They just say, oh, yes, it is. Well, if Doge was still operating and Doge was still doing what it was doing 6 months ago, then you wouldn't have to tell me that Doge was still operating and doing what it was doing, because I would see the results. So the fact that you're coming out here and trying to run cover about Doge tells me that, yes, Doge is dead. Prove me wrong. Show us the receipts. Show us the audits. Where is Fort Knox's audit? I thought we were going to Fort Knox. What happened to that? Did we learn something? Was there something at Fort Knox we don't want the people to see? Why did that get shut down? Oh, don't ask. Doge is doing great. Doge is fantastic. Don't believe the press. Well, we all might agree with that. We just want results. That's what this comes down to. Either you're going to deliver results or you're not. And we look at the results of this administration and we don't like it. And they can poo-poo all day long, and they can try to run cover all day long, and they can send Caroline Leavitt out there all day long. Results are all that matters. This is not politics as normal. The MAGA base, which has been replaced by this new MAGA cult, the MAGA base is in it for one thing and one thing only, and that's results. We're not in it for a golden ballroom. We're not in it for a uniform. We're not in it for a hat. We're not in it for a pat on the head. We're not in it for a stimulus check. We're in it for results. And if you don't deliver results, we won't be satisfied. Now, one person who I think represents that thought process of the MAGA base was Marjorie Taylor Greene. Obviously, she's out now. Kevin McCarthy was on Fox News talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here's what he had to say.
Okay. What happened, by the way, with MTG? She's leaving Congress? She's leaving Congress, but I don't think that's the end that you'll see about her. And I think, look, I've always believed that anytime you have an elected official that's known by 3 initials, they're effective on what they do. And I found Marjorie to be very effective, but she's almost like a canary in a coal mine. And this is something inside Congress they better wake up, because they're going to get a lot of people retiring, and they got to focus. I think keeping members out of Congress, you only get 2 years to be in the majority. And if the Democrats get you not to work every day for 2 months, that's losing 2 months of the majority. Okay. What happened, by the way, with
I like the, if you have the 3-letter initials, then you're probably pretty effective. I like that. I think Kevin McCarthy is right about that. Kevin McCarthy telling the truth. He's right about MTG. And it's like, that's what we're trying to communicate here. MTG is the canary in the coal mine. MTG is one of the last connections that the Republican Party has to the average American. Now you have barely any connection left. There's barely any connection from the average American to the Republican Party now. They don't recognize it. They don't resonate with it. They're disinterested. They're disenfranchised. And now that Marjorie Taylor Greene is out, you've just lost one of the last threads of connection you have to the average American. And then it's like, what do you have left? Maybe Rand Paul, Thomas Massie. That's who they're trying to get rid of now. What is the Republican Party thinking? What are they going to do? And they think that they can just run on, oh, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a socialist. That doesn't work anymore. You have to deliver. You don't just get to say, oh, I'm against socialists. Oh, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. You have to deliver results. What will the Republican Party do? If AIPAC is successful in removing Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, that will be the end of the Republican Party. It'll be dead. You will never win another election. People will not show up to vote for you. They won't even recognize the party. They'll have no connection to it whatsoever. And you'll usher in 4 years of Democrat control, maybe 6. Maybe 6 even. So it's just like, why? Why do you do this? For what? A foreign policy that people don't like? For what? A foreign country that's at war with 9 countries, bombing 9 countries, just killed 100,000 people? What are you doing this for? For the donor class? So you can still get donor money running losing elections? What is the purpose of the Republican Party? If you let AIPAC oust Thomas Massie, if you let AIPAC oust Rand Paul, it's over. There is no Republican Party anymore. There's just a Republican donor class and a bunch of losing politicians. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. The Republican Party has no interest in their identity crisis right now. And, they could have fixed this. And you could argue maybe that Kevin McCarthy got a bad rap. I'm okay. I'm okay if people want to stick up for Kevin McCarthy after all this and say he got a bad rap. and they can say, well, maybe Matt Gaetz shouldn't have done it. I'll disagree with that. And here's why. Matt Gaetz understood something, and the Freedom Caucus understood something at that time that the Republican Party still doesn't understand. It's that you have an identity crisis. And you've kind of been able to live off of the aura and the popularity of Donald Trump for the last 6-8 years. So the Republican Party lacking an identity, lacking any true spine, it's been able to kind of live off of the Trump aura for the last 6 years. But see, Matt Gaetz and the Freedom Caucus understood that they had an identity crisis and that they needed somebody to be Speaker of the House that could better represent the Republican identity. Remember, what was it that Matt Gaetz was saying? What was it that Lauren Boebert was saying? What was it that the Freedom Caucus was saying? They were saying Kevin McCarthy represents the donor class. We need somebody that represents the people. And that was it. That's the identity crisis. Do you think who relates to Mike Johnson? What Republican voter sees Mike Johnson up there and says, wow, he reminds me of me? What young American out there that wants to save this country? What patriotic American out there that wants to vote Republican, that wants to support Donald Trump? What one of them stands up there and says, wow, Mike Johnson, I resonate with that. He represents me. Nobody. See, Matt Gaetz understood that. And even if Kevin McCarthy wasn't the problem, even if Kevin McCarthy wasn't the worst of them, it's like, hey, the Republicans have an opportunity to change their identity right now. And we can put in a speaker that represents the average American voter, that represents where the dissident right is at right now, a Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Matt Gaetz, hell, even a Thomas Massie, hell, a Tim Burchett. If you wanted to be maybe less controversial, Tim Burchett represents where the average American is at more than a Mike Johnson. So they understood. They said, hey, we have an identity crisis. Kevin McCarthy ain't fixing it. We got to have somebody else in there as speaker, but now here you are. So what are you going to do? You can't live off of Trump forever. There will be no connection with the Republican Party to the average American if you let AIPAC unseat Thomas Massie and Rand Paul, and you will let the Democrats take power for 4, maybe 6 years if you do that. But hey, I guess the Republican Party doesn't care. As long as the donor class is happy, which they get the results they want no matter who's in power, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, the foreign policy doesn't change. The assault on the Constitution, the trampling of our rights, the collapse of our civilization, our economy, none of that changes no matter who's in power. So the donor class doesn't care who wins and who loses. They fund both sides. They get what they want no matter what. But if you don't understand, as Kevin McCarthy said, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is the canary in the coal mine, and that you are slowly slipping from the Republican Party having any attachment, any recognition, any resonation with the American voter, then you're about to hand the Democrats 6 years of power. But of course, AIPAC doesn't care. It's more important for AIPAC to remove any vote in Congress that might stop the funding to a foreign country in a foreign war. They don't care who wins. They own both sides of the aisle. So what a shame. What a shame that the Republican Party is willing to throw it all away. Oh, we're the Patriots. We're the Republicans. They're willing to throw it all away, folks. They're willing to throw it all away for the donor class. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to warn them. Even Kevin McCarthy trying to warn them. Here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene said this morning. She says, only 20% of Americans are on X. And this is where the political industrial complex controls a hive mind with hyper-partisan politics. It's toxic, hateful, and divisive. Many accounts are paid and many are foreign, and they post and comment all day with targeted talking points in order to sway your opinion. However, it's not real life. Real life exists without a phone, tablet, or computer. Real life is tangible. involves relationships with people, productive work, and all of the fun, amazing adventures the beautiful world has to offer. Real life among common Americans is what holds this country up and where the solutions for our future reside. Most of all, it's where happiness is. Well, I like that little close. It is a lot happier out there when you get out of the political world. But, it sounds like what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying here is kind of a different version of what I've been saying, which is, do you people have any normal social life at all? Like, that's what I'm saying, folks. It's like the Republican Party has absolutely no connection to the average American anymore. And if you want to attack Marjorie Taylor Greene for whatever reason, fine. Go ahead. Launch your attacks on Marjorie Taylor Greene. But one thing remains true. She resonates with the average American maybe more than anyone else in Congress right now. So when you attack her and you besmirch her, you're attacking the average American. You're besmirching the average American. And that's how it's consumed. That's how it's viewed. But there's no interest. They don't even try. They don't even care. And they're willing to throw it all away for the donor class. No different than the Democrats, no different than the Republicans before them, no different than the Democrats before them. We just want it to change into the future. That's all. We just want a political representation that isn't beholden to the donor class. And we were hoping we would get it with this administration. We were hoping we would get it with this Congress, and we're not. So that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene is out. That's why she's out, folks. She's the canary in the coal mine. And it seems like there's no interest. It seems like there's no effort to try to rekindle whatever connection that the Republican Party had to the average American, thanks to President Trump, thanks to the 2024 election and the populist movement. All of that good favor, that strong connection with we the people and the Republican Party, it's almost all gone. It's almost all gone. So you better be careful. You better be careful when you're attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene. You better be careful when you're running against Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. Because if you remove those two and you continue to attack Marjorie Taylor Greene, all you're going to do is push those disenfranchised Americans right into the hands of the Democrats. And you might say, well, they'll never vote Democrat. That might be true. But here's what is also true. They're not going to vote Republican either.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, your new home for political play-by-play, the Owen Report.
All right, I want to go to this video that was shared by Tim Burchett. Yes, one of the good guys. One of the last remaining good guys in Congress, I would say. He shared this video this morning. Pretty powerful. And it just shows you how messed up American politics are, Congress is, Washington, D.C. is, when you hear this stuff. Tim says, my friend Tom Emmer is right. when he condemns Somalis for stealing our money to fund terrorists, but we still send $40 million a week to the Taliban. Yeah, you heard that right. So he shared this little compilation breaking it all down this morning.
HR 260, a bill to require a strategy to oppose financial or material support by foreign countries and non-governmental organizations to the Taliban and for other purposes.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Tennessee.
Mr. Speaker, we must send a very strong message that the United States will no longer tolerate sending U.S. tax dollars to terrorist organizations in Afghanistan and across the Middle East.
Those in favor say aye.
I'd like to thank my dear friend Sean Ryan from Middle Tennessee, former Navy SEAL. He brought this to my attention. And my good friend Legend is an Afghan that fought for America, and he's my friend.
In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed.
We got Scott Mann, Sarah Adams, and Legend. We'll be talking about where some of the stuff is in Afghanistan and the federal government when it comes to funding the Taliban.
And it's like I said, it's your tax dollars. It's your tax dollars going to the very individuals who killed hundreds and thousands of American soldiers, injured so many Americans, killed hundreds of thousands of Afghans. And right now they're hosting Al-Qaeda and ISIS and everyone else who are planning to attack you again. And you're funding it.
In the hands of the Taliban, and then it's later being auctioned off. This got taken to Sean Ryan and Legend, and we figured out that we've got a lot bigger problems on our hands. Sean and Legend brought to our attention at least $40 million per week, $40 million per week in taxpayer money is ending up in the hands of the Taliban, and then it's later being auctioned off. Cash is flown by charter jets into Afghanistan. It's auctioned off to the Taliban in order to exchange it for the Afghan currency.
Afghanistan. The Taliban is the current reigning government and has current control over Afghanistan. To find out that $40 million in cash payments per week are being delivered to the Taliban is an outrage that the American people will not tolerate. They will not stand for.
Recently, we learned what many of us had already known, and that is that billions of American taxpayer dollars were being funneled to spread anti-American sentiment across the world and fund terrorism. Given our roughly $37 trillion of debt and $2 trillion annual deficit, the arrogance and greed and foolishness coming out of this town is absolutely astounding. On top of the billions of tax dollars shelled out to USAID, Representative Burchett, Sean Ryan, and others, including our friend Legend over here today, highlighted that the Biden State Department sent millions of your tax dollars to the Taliban. As someone who has served our nation overseas and fought to defend liberties and freedoms that we cherish, it's disgraceful that the Biden administration sent our resources to our enemies on the battlefield. People often say that the United States funds both sides of every conflict. Under the Biden administration, those assertions are absolutely true.
We really started a conversation here with the three of you guys about that. Tim Burchett got involved. Eli Crane got involved. I talked to Tim Sheehy, the senator out of Montana. He's aware of it.
He was introducing it into the Senate. What's the headway on this? This has to be an act of Congress. This has to be no tax dollars for terrorists act. It's a very good bill, and it's just waiting for Senator John Thune to put it up for a vote.
The president has issued an order which we have followed to suspend any aid that could possibly reach the hands of the Taliban.
Essentially funneling cash straight into the Taliban's pockets. $40 billion in cash?
We're still actually giving $40 million a week to the Taliban.
$3 billion plus going over to the Taliban.
Our government is sending taxpayer dollars to terrorists that went by for 20 years.
Your hard-earned tax dollars ended up in the hands of terrorists.
What do they do with that $40 million, you ask? Well, let me tell you. This is what legend says. Shouldn't the American people approve or not approve this? Sending $40 million. Taliban is taxpayer fund.
We're giving tens of millions of dollars a week to the Taliban.
Sending money to terrorist groups.
Now, folks, that was from a year ago. 37 trillion in debt is now 39. So in a year, it's gone up $2 trillion. All right. Aside from that, wouldn't you like answers on how a former leader of Al-Qaeda becomes the new president of Syria, backed by the United States government in a overthrow of the Assad regime? And then he's at the White House a year after having a $10 million bounty on his head. Wouldn't you like to know how that happens? Wouldn't you like to know what leads up to that? Sounds pretty corrupt. Wouldn't you like to know why your tax dollars fund both sides of these wars in the Middle East? Wouldn't you like to know why your tax dollars, $200 billion, goes to Ukraine with no oversight? Now the money's gone. It was stolen. A bunch of criminal investigations. The Kiev oligarchs fleeing town, looking for safe harbor in Europe. Wouldn't you like to know this stuff? Wouldn't you like to see resources and commitment to getting these things done instead of low approval rating foreign policy, instead of more foreign aid, more foreign wars, more foreign entanglements? And dare I say that whatever decisions led to your tax dollars funding known terrorists in the Middle East, wouldn't you like to know how these decisions were made and who made them? And for all this tough talk we see about these Democrats, where they're talking about sedition for telling military members to disobey illegal orders, and we see the tough talk on that, I'd like to see that tough talk directed at the people who are funneling our money to terrorists. I'd like to see that type of tough talk for the individuals in Congress who vote to send our money overseas with no oversight. To me, that is a much more treasonous act than the Democrats' video talking about illegal military orders. And you know what? Maybe just to put a little icing on this cake, don't you think the criminal invasion of our country, 15 million, 20 million people in the Biden administration, don't you think that's a much bigger treasonous act than the Democrats putting out a stupid video? I certainly do. So I'd love to see that thunder. I'd love to see that attention, that focus directed at the real treasonous actions. And you can debate whether what the Democrats did was legal or illegal or a sedition or not. Quite frankly, I don't care, because it pales in comparison. That video that they shot is a 0 on the Richter scale, a 0 compared to the criminal invasion of our border, compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars that we send into foreign countries with no oversight that ends up in the hands of terrorists and corrupt political leaders. Those are much more treasonous acts than a stupid video put out by Democrats. And yet, where is the attention? Where is the focus? Where is the thunder being directed? At a stupid social media video? Give me a break. President Trump, direct that energy at Alejandro Mayorkas. President Trump, direct that energy at the same foreign policy that put United States taxpayer dollars in the hands of known terrorists and in the hands of corrupt politicians that they stole from us, Mr. President. Those are the real seditious actors. Those are the real acts of treason, not a stupid video on social media. Stop it. Stop it. You're embarrassing us. You're embarrassing yourself. I want the real treasonous actors that stole an election to get that energy. That's what I want. I want the real treasonous actors that brought in rapists and murderers that killed hundreds of Americans in the open border. I want that energy directed at them, not some stupid social media video that nobody gives a damn about. Oh, yeah, you can hype it up and you can drive a bunch of attention. So what? So what? If you're not willing to go after Alejandro Mayorkas, if you're not willing to go after the FBI that persecuted your supporters and imprisoned, politically imprisoned your supporters, censored free speech on the internet, if you're not willing to direct that energy of anti-seditious actors, if you're not willing to direct that energy to the true treasonous actors, sorry, I'm not getting hyped up over you talking about a social media video. Sorry. Not going to fly here. Not going to hype me up. You want to investigate Alejandro Mayorkas for treason? Okay, now you got my attention. You want to investigate the Barack Obama administration for treason? Now you got my attention. You want to address the actions of Congress that put U.S. taxpayer dollars in the hands of known terrorists and corrupt politicians? Now you've got my attention. But when you ignore all of that stuff and you start to talk about some silly little video that the Democrats put out, sorry. Not going to fly here. Not really moving any mountains for me. But I guess, what do we expect? What do we expect when you've cozied up next to Big Pharma? All right. He's cozying up next to the turkeys. Let's go to President Trump with the turkeys. You can't be bad all the time. I do some good things, right? Well, he pardoned the turkeys. So here we go. President Trump pardoning the turkeys.
Names of Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw the pictures, I thought we should send them, I shouldn't say this. I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those two people. I wouldn't pardon them. I wouldn't care what Melania told me. Darling, I think it would be a nice thing to do. I won't do it, darling. These are two of the largest turkeys ever presented to an American president, over 50 pounds each. It's the largest we've ever had. And those are big turkeys. Are they as good as the normal-sized turkey? Better or as good? Do they tend to be a little fatty, maybe? No, he said no. He knows the turkey business. Anyway, despite their size, Secretary Kennedy has formally certified that these are the first ever Maha turkeys. I don't know if I agree with that. These are Maha. In other words, they could be fat, but they're still Maha. They've been fattened on a steady diet of grass, beef, to allow the smoothies and all of the other things that they've been eating for this occasion. This was a really big occasion, but they've eaten every fattening food that you can eat. We wanted to really make them special, and they really are. They're like record-setting. I've never seen a turkey that big before. Are they violent at all? Will they attack as I...
Well, actually, the turkey is a very territorial bird. That's why Benjamin Franklin actually thought that the official bird of the United States, or the official logo, let's say, should have been a turkey, not an eagle, because of how territorial the turkey is. But the eagle much more majestic, right? So President Trump using the turkey pardon podium to go after some of his political enemies as well.
Very serious thing. You saw all the crime that took place last night, the night before. The woman with the burning, they burned the woman. To be talking about that now, they burned this beautiful woman riding in a train. A man was arrested 72 times. 72 times, think of that. And they'll let him out again. The liberal judges will let him out again. But we're ready to go. You know, we've been moving toward Chicago. We have a governor that thinks it's wonderful that only like 7 people were killed this week. But we are moving toward doing, and we're going to, if crime gets, it's horrible what's happening in Chicago. We could make Chicago a safe city in a period of 4 weeks. In a period of 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, it would be totally safe. And the people of Chicago want us to go there. And if you look at the crime that's taken place in Chicago in the last 2 weeks, just take a look. It's on the front page of every newspaper. It's out of control. The mayor is incompetent, and the governor is a big fat slob. He ought to invite us in, say, please make Chicago safe. We're going to lose a great city if we don't do it quickly. Make Chicago, we'll do the same thing as we did in D.C., the same thing as we did everywhere we've gone. It's become almost instantly safe. And I want to do it in Chicago. So Governor Pritzker, if you're listening, let's get your act together. Invite us in. We're going to make your place so safe. You're not going to have these crimes that are making the newspapers and the front page of every newspaper and television story, news story. We'll make Chicago a safe place very quickly. I looked at the various cases, granting mercy, discovering that the terrible trauma that everyone's going through. And I had a little bit of a Pritzker joke. I was going to talk about Pritzker and size, but when I talk about Pritzker, I get angry because he's not letting us do the job. So I'm not going to tell my Pritzker joke. They have a very cute little joke, you know. Some speechwriter wrote some joke about his weight, but I would never want to talk about his weight. I don't talk about people being fat.
You talked about the turkey.
I refuse to talk about the fact that he's a fat slob. I don't mention it.
Okay. You know, he brings up that situation in Chicago where that young lady was burned alive on the subway by a career criminal. And I saw that Elon Musk was posting about that today. And he was talking about these corrupt judges in these cities. Why is everybody so afraid of George Soros? Honestly, I don't get it. And I think Ron DeSantis is making two very politically strategic moves right now as the governor of Florida that will translate to a presidential election campaign should he decide to make another run. And that is, of course, he's talking about eliminating property tax. So that's an easy win. You got to support that. Who wouldn't support that, by the way? You know, what kind of un-American communist wouldn't support getting rid of what should be illegal property tax? So, okay, that's a winning issue for Ron DeSantis. That I think he'll make that play strategically before he leaves the governor's mansion in Florida. And then he's also targeted Soros prosecutors, and he's removing them from Florida. Why is everybody so afraid of George Soros? It's like, how do you think these judges end up on the bench? Why don't we cut the Soros money out? Why don't we get rid of George Soros from the political process? It's like everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows it's his money. Everybody knows that's who funds these radical leftist judges to get on the bench. And then it's those judges that release violent criminals back on the street that rape and murder. It's not rocket science. Why don't we stop it? So, okay, Ron DeSantis is likely going to lead that charge and make that a part of a presidential campaign should he decide to run, which I anticipate he will. And it should be. Everybody should know what George Soros has done to this country. Everybody should know. How could you properly, what would be the fair analysis here? Soros money has resulted in how many Americans dying? How many? The Soros attorneys, the Soros judges that make sure violent criminals, known violent criminals, remain out on the streets to rape and kill again. Why do we tolerate George Soros in American politics? Why? George Soros doesn't have any inclusive right to corrupt our political process and make sure that corrupt judges get on the bench to keep our city streets unsafe. You don't have to live like this. Why do we tolerate this crap? DeSantis will lead the charge on this, but it's incredible that he seems to be the lone wolf in taking this issue to mainstream. All right, here's one more from President Trump today talking about Joe Biden.
You remember last year, after a thorough and very rigorous investigation by Pam Bondi and all of the people at Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the White House Counsel's Office, and the Department of Everything. We have a Department of Everything. You know what that is? I think that's called the White House. Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid, as are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned other than where's Hunter? You remember last year after
when are we going to revoke those pardons and actually charge people for fraud at the highest level for forging a presidential signature? You know, we talk about it, we joke about it, but it's really not a joke though, right? I didn't think it was a joke. I thought we were serious. We might be going back to the White House for some updates again today. I think we might debut a new segment here, backed by popular demand, demanded by popular support, you might say. Demanded by popular support. We might do a new segment. We might debut a new segment today called the Presidential Update. Something people have been requesting here for a while. We might do it today. Hey, what have I been telling you? I've got so many examples of this. I have phone calls with people, and they say the same thing. Mark Mitchell, Rasmussen reports. We go back here. I've been blocked by more MAGA sycophants than leftists. Weird. What have I been telling you? I've been telling you that now this new right-wing MAGA Trump cult is more extreme and more vitriolic than anything I've ever seen from the left. They're worse. I can't believe we're actually seeing this. It's got to be one of the strangest paradoxes in the current political environment is that now this new right-wing cult has become worse than the radical left. And it's not just me saying this. It's not just Mark Mitchell saying this. I have conversations with people on the phone, big names in media you'd know, activists, big names activists that you would know, and they all tell me the same thing. It's like you offer one piece of criticism for Trump, and they've never seen more hatred in their life. They've never seen more vitriol in their life. They've never seen more cult-like behavior than what you get from this new right-wing MAGA Trump cult. It's very strange. It's very strange. So Kash Patel, he's been the highly scrutinized director of the FBI. He's got some PR issues right now. So I guess he thought he would sit down with Catherine Herridge to address some of these things. I don't think President Trump can be happy with the conclusion reached. They're done with the Thomas Crooks investigation. Here's Kash Patel.
Just to be clear, did Thomas Crooks act alone?
Yes, based on the evidence that we have, that is the conclusive finding of the matter.
Is there evidence of foreign involvement?
There, as we indicated in our public disclosures, Thomas Crooks had some online platforms where he engaged through email with a couple of individuals overseas, and we chased those down literally to the end. And basically it was just that, online email accounts overseas without any substantive communication.
What was Thomas Crooks' motive?
He, as has been publicized, had a basically hateful relationship with the United States government, talked disparagingly about both political parties, to include President Trump, and talked about the need to take matters into his own hands. And unfortunately, that's what he did.
So Crooks acted alone, case closed. All right. I want to go to a longer video here from Thomas Massey. I guess it's fair to say that he doesn't view Kash Patel so favorably. And so here's what he had to say recently.
I'm going to say this here on camera because it's important. One of Kash Patel's staff threatened my staff with a criminal investigation if we didn't straighten up and play ball.
I was going to ask you about that, but since you brought it up, and I didn't
I'm bringing it up.
Okay, you brought it up.
And so, like a criminal investigation having nothing to do, he said it was going to be a fraud. We're going to investigate one of your staff for fraud. And he told another one of my staff this. If you guys don't straighten up, if you want to play hardball, if this is how you want to play it or something like that, this member of your staff is going to get criminally investigated for fraud. A very specific threat.
Right.
And that had just happened. So I told Bongino, I said, one of your guys is threatening my guys with an FBI investigation if we don't do what you want. And he said, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. Because even he understood that was not a good look. It's probably illegal, right? So the fallout of that is the FBI employee who threatened my staff. I have to tell you all this, by the way, Steve, and I have to tell all the listeners this, because this is the context in which I'm worried for the whistleblower. If they're willing to retaliate against a congressional office, which has speech or debate immunity and a lot of other protections, they may be willing to retaliate against a whistleblower.
Right.
So the person who had made the threat to one of my staff through another staff, he sent a text. I got a copy of the text that said, Massey told Bongino, I have to apologize to you, or I should apologize to you. And then he said, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. He didn't apologize. He was unrepentant, let's say, really, that kind of non-apology.
Right.
And so that's the context in which when Bongino said, I'm going to have a big powwow, I'm pulling everybody in, my spidey sense went off. Well, a few hours later, I get this second disclosure from the whistleblower attorney who says, we think they're going after the whistleblower because they're having this big giant meeting. Well, I had knowledge that a big giant meeting was happening.
Right.
So this comported with, and then I also had knowledge my own staff was being threatened.
Yeah.
So I took the attorney's letter seriously and I posted it. And I said, this is concerning. Here's the letter. I want to remind Kash Patel that it's illegal to go after whistleblowers if applicable.
Right.
I didn't say he was going after one. I said, if applicable. And then within 15 minutes of me putting that letter out, Bongino called me again. But remember, this was the busiest day of my life because I got the 218 signature for the Epstein petition.
Right.
and they had Lauren Boebert over at the White House Situation Room, allegedly with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. So while on the day that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are trying to get one of the signatures and I couldn't afford to lose signatures, like I was advising Lauren Boebert before she went to the White House on the lies that they were going to tell her when she got there. And it was a very busy day, right? This is what the two Bongino phone calls on the same day.
Right.
And then we got the 218 signature. They tried to do a quarterback sneak and pass the Epstein files by my legislation by unanimous consent, which would have allowed them to hold the bill in the House forever and let it die in the House without sending it to the Senate. Like this is all procedural stuff that I have to be tracking, or else they're going to run this thing I've been working on for 5 months off the rails.
Yeah.
And then you got to start all over, and you'll be another 5 months into this. But anyways, I was busy. I didn't take that call, and then the next day he posted some online rant that I haven't even read the whole thing yet.
You're talking about Bongino's rant.
Yeah, Bongino's rant with the 2 phone records.
Yeah.
At least here's what you know. You know he did talk to me that morning.
Right.
And then I believe you can also go back and look and see that the second phone call, I don't think was a good faith effort to give me a brief. It was, I think he wanted to scream at me about publishing the second attorney's letter representing the newest whistleblower who's a current FBI employee.
All right. Now, I imagine there's going to be more drama to follow here. But I want to go back to what he said in the beginning of the video, talking about some of the pressure that his staff was under, dealing with some of the Epstein fallout and the files and the votes. And that extends beyond Thomas Massey's office. In fact, there's a very high pressure system in DC right now, probably worse than ever. And some of you can kind of sense this. I think it's pretty palpable to people that really follow it. Charlie Kirk even kind of gave you a bit of a peephole view into some of the things that he was talking about in his final days, talking about the pressure of the lobbyists to remain loyal to an issue and how he was sick of being bullied. And I think that's what resulted in him telling Tucker Carlson to go max, go all the way, because Charlie felt like he couldn't go there, but Tucker had the freedom to do so. And I've talked about how people in media will use others as a surrogate to talk about certain things or cover certain stories when they can't do it. I've experienced that myself. But right now, there's a lot of pressure. So obviously, everybody can see who gets access to the administration and who doesn't. That's not a secret. You can see who's getting the invites and who's not. Who's getting the exclusives, who's not. Who's getting invited on Fox News, which is basically a wing of the administration. It's basically Trump news. Who gets the invite on Fox Trump News and who doesn't? Well, not all of them are sellouts. And even though they might have sold out a little bit, and a lot of them probably got money during the campaign to post for Trump, and there might still be some money going around, but they still get the access. They kind of still rely on the access. They've built their brand off of MAGA, off of Trump. So it's kind of an identity crisis. It's kind of a bottom line crisis. But they're not all sellouts. And they can read the tea leaves, and they can see where the wind is blowing. And they know that now Americans are starting to look at some of these Trump cultists and Trump loyalists as just that, and sellouts. So there's a lot of pressure right now directed towards these individuals to keep things positive, to only post positive news, to attack anybody that may go negative. There's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure is coming down from the administration on these individuals to try to counter any negative press about this administration. There's a lot of pressure. And I think at first they were willing to take that fight up. I think at first they were more than willing even to serve that purpose. But as the administration gets less and less popular, as the rift on the right on some of the most important issues, the divide gets even wider, they're starting to kind of feel a little less willing to fill that role. But that's what I'm saying. It's not just Charlie Kirk who he's talking about. It's not just Thomas Massie and his staff. Folks, there's a high pressure system in DC right now to only allow good headlines out. And I don't even know if that's Trump per se, because it's not really Trump that's directing this. You know, he might say things in meetings and then people take it up. But somebody's running this, and somebody's sending out memos and sending out messages to counter signal any negative press and to put a lot of pressure on people to keep the narrative where the administration wants it. And Fox News is their main outlet for doing that, but they've got a bunch of people under their wing in the independent press too. And they know if they throw them a bone and throw them some red meat every once in a while, they can kind of keep them coming around. But less and less, I think it's becoming less attractive, or let's say more and more, I should say, for these loyalists that are getting the access. It's getting less and less attractive for them to play that role. So I think you might start to see that break. And then the people that are going to stay loyal and try to continue to get that access and beg for that pat on the head, they're going to get even crazier. The more isolated they get, the more insane they're going to behave, because that's what's going to happen. Eventually, if this administration doesn't start delivering on the real America First issues, deep state arrest, however you want to prioritize, eventually the cultists and the loyalists are going to feel even more and more isolated, and they're going to act even crazier and crazier, which is only going to make the situation worse. But you can't hide the truth about the economy. You can blame somebody else, but you can't hide it. Nearly 6 million households have utility debt so severe they'll soon be reported to collection agencies. That's how bad it's getting. More people are falling behind on paying their bills to keep the lights on and heat their homes. According to a new analysis of consumer data, a warning sign for the U.S. economy and another political headache for President Donald Trump. And that's why it's so unsightly for him to say how great the economy is. Analysis shows more U.S. consumers are falling behind on utility bills. Past due balances to utility companies jumped 9.7% annually to $789 between the April-June periods of 2024 and 2025. The increase is overlapped with a 12% jump in monthly energy bills during the same period. So basically, it's like Americans were already operating on such a thin line. When the energy costs went up 10%, all of a sudden, delinquencies basically went up at the exact same rate. That 10% increase in the energy costs put 10% of people now on the wrong side of that line, on the wrong side of that ledger. So it's like, why even say it? Why even sit here and rub Americans' face in it that know the economy is not good, that are struggling in the economy right now? Why rub their face in it and say it's the greatest of all time? Why even do it? Just don't even say it. Just say you're trying to make it better. Even play the blame game if you want. But folks, this is like, so you're talking about an $800 difference, okay? This is how tight things are in the U.S. economy right now. You're talking about an $800 difference over a year. And an $800 difference over a single year put 10% of Americans on the wrong side of the ledger. $800 put 10% of Americans on the wrong side of the ledger. $800, folks. That's how tight things are right now. $800. You'd think, all right, yeah, okay, $800 might be difficult for some people to scrape up an extra $800 in their budget annually. 10% of Americans can't scrape up $800 with an increase in the energy costs. That's that thin line, folks. That's that 50+% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck now. And that's why even if you're making $100,000, people have this tight budget. It's tough to get into the housing column of your assets. It's tough. And so people will say, I want to own a house. And they'll have a budget and they'll say, okay. Or maybe it's a car. Say, I'm going to get a new car. I'm going to go buy a house. And they have a budget. And it's right there. It's razor thin. But they want to buy that house. They want to get into the home ownership category. So they buy that house and their budget is razor thin. And even if you make $100,000 or more, your budget is still razor thin when you're purchasing that house. And then your energy bills go up 10%. You didn't account that into the budget. Now you're on the wrong side of the ledger. Now you're delinquent. 10% of Americans, folks, $800 of an annual increase in energy bill put 10% of Americans on the wrong side of the ledger. That's how tight it is. And now you got all this unemployment news out there, and it doesn't look good. Here's the interesting one. Unemployed Americans with 4-year college degrees now make up a record 25% of total unemployment. The percentage has doubled since the 2008 financial crisis. This comes as over 1.9 million workers aged 25 plus with at least a bachelor degree are now unemployed. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate for Americans aged 20 to 24 is up to 9.2%, the highest since May 2021. We were still in the effects of the COVID lockdowns. This rate has risen plus 2.2 points year over year, an increase not seen outside recessions. The U.S. labor market is weakening across all education levels. Now, again, if the Trump administration wants to play the blame game and say that the Biden administration did this, fine, fair enough. I would still say that the Trump administration that allowed the COVID lockdowns and economic shutdown to happen is probably more to blame, but okay, play the blame game. Don't come out here and say the economy is great. Don't come out here and tell the average Americans how great the economy is. Don't come out here with a quarter of the unemployment in this country being people with 4-year college degrees. Now, you might say, okay, well, what are they studying? Well, yeah, that could be an issue. Chamath Pilahapatia. We're totally getting that one right. From the All In podcast. 2 obvious takeaways. The U.S. federal government needs to stop underwriting college loans immediately. That's true. Remember, you had a lot of these federal employees that had 4-year college degrees that were out of work because of the shutdown. Like, oh, that's the work you can get. Too many people are entering into a financial quagmire that they will never pay off to get a degree that increasingly has little to no value. You know, I don't know what you do about all of that other than just you don't partake. I think that's the only solution to that issue is just you don't partake. And it's too bad. I mean, the fact that it's probably now wise, it's probably now sage advice to tell young people not to go to college. But it just might be. When I get asked this from young kids, I say, are your parents wanting you to go to college? Are they going to pay for it? And if the answer is yes, then you say, okay, thank your mom and dad and go get straight A's. If you want to become entrepreneurial, go to your parents and say, how much are you about to spend on my college? They give you a number. Say, I'd like to open a business instead. They might be willing to hear you out on that. They might say, no, we want you to go to college. You're blessed if you're in a position like that. Good for you. Know that you're blessed and make the most of it. But if you have to go and take out a loan and you don't even know what you want to do, you're making a bad decision. You're setting yourself back before you can even get started. And that's basically what it is. You're saddled with debt that you can't pay before you even get started. So there's all kinds of alternatives. You can go to a community college, which is affordable. You can just opt out of the entire college process experience altogether and not go into debt. Just go into the workforce. Maybe find your way back in later if you want. The whole thing is corrupt. Degrees are mostly worthless, except now to get the degree, you're going into what, 100,000 in debt? So it's not just worthless. It's an expense you can't even afford and will not give you the return on investment. That's where you're at with college right now. So I think you have to opt out. And that's why when Trump was like, oh, well, if we don't let the Chinese come here, then the colleges are going to go bankrupt. The colleges are going to collapse. So good. That's what they deserve. If the colleges can't provide a quality education at an affordable price, and it's become a ripoff, and it's become a predatory loan industry, then good. They should collapse. They should. That's what they deserve for turning higher education into a predatory loan industry. I don't want to hear about college bailouts. Let them collapse then. Let them collapse. All right, let's go back to Chicago, where the mayor putting people in jail is racist, apparently.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down.
Well, it's funny to hear him say that because the real racism, I wonder if anybody's crunched these numbers. I don't know how you would try to formulate this, but the real racism is that you have judges and you have a prison complex where they want to try to control the demographics of prisons And so they try to manipulate the results in these courtrooms to get a desired demographic representation in prison. So obviously, that's not going to work, because now you're not talking about law enforcement. You're not talking about justice. You're talking about finding a way to make a race-based justice system to give you a desired demographic result in the prisons. Well, obviously that's failed. Now, I'm all about prison reform. I'm all about justice reform. Violent criminals cannot be set free. And that's the problem you have in this country. Violent criminals walk free all the time, and nonviolent offenders face max sentencing. This is a regular occurrence. A regular occurrence. And if you've got one of these Soros judges, if you've got one of these Soros prosecutors, they would much rather send somebody to prison that's not black, and they would rather free a violent criminal that is black so that they can get a demographic result in the prisons and say, see, we're beating the racist prison industrial complex, when really all you're doing is sending violent criminals back on the street and putting nonviolent criminals in prison. It's funny because you get right back to the same issue of Soros judges. Isn't that amazing? When will somebody finally address it? But hey, Chicago, you guys are doing great. Yeah, your city's doing great. Hey, this happened in North Carolina. Students walked out of school to protest ICE at St. Stephen's High. You can see them waving Mexican flags here. Now, how much of this is just kids wanting to get out of class, and how much do they really know or care about ICE enforcement outside of whatever propaganda they're getting from the liberal institutions or the education system? So they're protesting. You may recall, it's really incredible, actually, how South Park is so ahead of its time. They did an episode exactly like this, and it was like, oh, you can go protest. And the students were like, yeah, whatever. And you can leave school early to go protest. And they were like, oh, I want to protest. I care about the cause now. So how much of this is just students that want to get out of class? How much of this is just students being motivated by leftist teachers to go protest ICE enforcement? As if this does anything. Oh, yeah, ICE is going to stop enforcing the law now. Oh, yeah, deportations are going to stop now. What the hell even is that? It's a publicity stunt. Did you hear about this? This is in New York. This is a Kathy Hochul. This is the brainchild of Kathy Hochul. Let me scroll down here and tell you what we're actually doing with, and then I'll tell you what happened. Snug. She's so smart, Kathy Hochul. It's guns spelled backwards, guys. Snug. The Snug program, which is guns spelled backwards. We're so smart. These liberal Democrats are geniuses. Who could have thought of such a genius thing? It's a state-backed initiative that hires, quote, credible messengers. What does that even mean? Often people with criminal records to connect with at-risk youth and help keep them off the streets. The model has long been supported by Governor Kathy Hochul. She said, this is an important program because I know that it works. Oh! Kathy Hochul knows that the Snug program works. She says she knows it works. She said this in March of 2022. I want to continue investing in what we know has a proven track record of accomplishment. So last February, Kathy Hochul announced more than $20 million for Snug programs statewide. Now, why would the government be involved in these programs? Again, it shouldn't be. If you want to do this through a private investor and a charitable cause, then okay, that's at the free market. The government should have nothing to do with this. New York taxpayers should not be forced to pay for this, but they did. So there was a Syracuse site. There was a Syracuse, New York Snug site. They got $1.8 million. Well, here's what happened. Syracuse anti-crime outreach workers caught dealing drugs on the job. That's nice. 2 Syracuse men hired to prevent crime have now admitted to fueling it. Ahmed Abdi and Cassium Pitts, both outreach workers for Syracuse SNUG, a state-funded anti-violence initiative, have accepted plea deals in a drug case that rocked the program last year. Ahmed Abdi will spend 6 years behind bars. Cassium Pitts will serve 9 years. Now, see, prosecutors say the men were on duty wearing their bright orange snug vests when they sold cocaine and meth to a confidential informant. Oh, see, this is actually an example of why the system is so broke. And this is an issue that right-wingers, conservatives specifically, they get wrong, in my opinion. And I understand why they get it wrong. They get it wrong for the right reasons. They want to do the right thing. It comes from the right motive, but the results are just not there, folks. This is a perfect example of why the entire system needs reformed. So they spend $1.8 million just on this. We're talking about just this county alone. So we're not even talking about the statewide. Just in Syracuse alone, they spend $1.8 million to run this program. The program ends up being directly involved in drug trafficking. And so now these two men that were part of the $1.8 million Syracuse program are going to be serving 6 years in jail and 9 years in jail. And so now $1.8 million to run this program. And now how much money is going to spend to feed and put these drug dealers in prison for a combined 15 years? Is any of it necessary? Are you going to stop whoever wants cocaine? Are they not going to buy cocaine anymore? Who's ever selling cocaine? Are they not going to sell cocaine anymore? Are you really doing anything? Are you really stopping anything? Oh, Schroyer thinks drug dealers shouldn't be prosecuted. No, I'm just showing you how broke the system is here, folks. I'm just showing you how broke it all is. You spend all of this money and it doesn't change anything. So why spend the money? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But this is what I'm talking about. Now, if you want to debate on whether a drug dealer is a violent offender or not, fine. But you'll put drug dealers, the justice system treats drug dealers worse than anybody else. They'll put drug dealers in prison 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. They'll put a child molester in jail for 6 months. They'll put a drug dealer in jail 10 years. They'll put a violent criminal, assault, battery, robbery, they'll put them down for 2 years. But they'll put you in 9 for selling drugs. And what I would argue, you could argue, is a free market exchange between free citizens. Kind of the libertarian approach. Conservatives might disagree. Fair enough. I'm just telling you how broke it is. They spend all this money and nothing changes. And they'll release violent rapists, child molesters, assaulters back on the streets in a short period of time. And a drug dealer who has no violent offenses other than dealing drugs, if that's how you view it, they'll put him in jail for 10 years and not a single less amount of drugs will be sold or consumed. That's all. That's all. More fraud in healthcare. Go figure. And then the judge tosses the case. Look at this. Look at this in Minnesota. Hennepin County judge tosses out jury's guilty verdict in $7.2 million home health care fraud case. You heard about this one. This was the big one. Jurors tell Care 11 News their decision wasn't difficult after seeing evidence of obvious fraud committed by Abdi Fattah Yusuf. Another Abdi here. A lot of Abdis in the news today. Why are there so many Abdis in my stack? At the August trial for Abdi, the jury heard evidence that he ran his home health care company, Promise Health, out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home health care companies were supposedly located. Yusuf and his wife, Lul Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant scam, a PCA scam. You hear about these. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of dollars of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. The deliberation took probably 4 hours at most. Based off of the state's evidence that was presented, it was beyond reasonable doubt. Jury foreperson Ben Wolfort told 11 News. Despite the jury convicting Yusuf, Judge Sarah West last week decided that they got it wrong, overturning the verdict and issuing a judgment of acquittal. Folks, how does that happen? How does that happen? Defense attorney Joe Tamburino, who is not affiliated with the case, reviewed the decision and analyzed it for KARE 11 News. He says Judge West ruled that the state's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that she believed the state didn't rule out other reasonable inferences. What? What's the reasonable inference? That they're retarded? Despite the ruling, even Judge West wrote that she is troubled by the manner in which fraud was able to be perpetuated at Promise Health, even though she'd let them off the hook. State Representative Christy Robbins, I was stunned. We want to strengthen state law so we can get prosecutions out of these cases because clearly a jury thought he was guilty. Jurors from the case can't believe the decision. I am shocked. Shocked, I say, based off of all the evidence that was presented to us and the obvious guilt that we saw based off of the said evidence. Another juror said, we didn't take our job lightly. We went through a lot of evidence and discussed a lot, took our time, but we all came to an agreement pretty easily. The Attorney General's office has filed an appeal. Folks, this is so outrageous. This judge needs to be investigated. Are judges like somehow beyond investigation? Judges can get bought off too. Judges can get blackmailed too. In fact, it could be maybe the worst case of judges being bought off and judges being blackmailed. I'm sorry. I can't reach any other conclusion of how that happens. I can't reach any other conclusion except that judge is corrupt, that they would acquit that case. I want an investigation into that judge. That is outrageous. Was the judge paid off? Was the judge blackmailed, or did the judge just decide I'm going to let criminals go? Wouldn't the people of Minnesota like to know? Wouldn't the people of America, the victims of this fraud, wouldn't they like to know? Not everybody's letting these fraudsters walk. FBI advances case against Charlotte activist Cedric Dean for Medicaid fraud. Dean's company allegedly billed Medicaid for unprovided mental health services. This is happening a lot, by the way. New federal court filings show the U.S. government is moving forward in its case against Charlotte activist Cedric Dean and his company. He was pretending to be an activist. Cedric Dean Holdings, Inc., as part of an ongoing healthcare fraud investigation. A lot of fraud out there. You know how you reduce government fraud? You reduce government spending. Yeah. You want to reduce government fraud? It's very simple. Take away the means, take away the reward, take away the government funding, and you will reduce government fraud.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
No, you stop this. No, you stop this. No, you stop this.
It's the fastest 3 hours on the internet. It's the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
All right, yes, we are in the third hour of today's Owen Report. I got to ask you, coffee drinkers, my coffee drinkers in the audience, have you tried Blackout Coffee yet? Why not? It's the official coffee of the Owen Report. What do you know about premium instant coffee? What do you know? Do you know anything about it? If you don't, it's time you find out. It's time you go to blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. It's time you take advantage of coupon code Owen, get 20% off your first order. It's time you find out about premium instant coffee. Now, here's why. If you're like me, you're constantly on the go, and you might only have maybe max 5 minutes in between commitments, in between events. It's kind of like, remember in high school, you're racing around to get to your next class. You got to get to your locker room, race around to the next class. Sometimes life can be like that. So you need instant coffee. You don't have time. Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't have time to brew a pot of coffee and then deal with cleaning it up and putting the grounds in and everything else. I don't have time to go to a coffee shop. It's too expensive anyway. I don't want to deal with that. I need premium coffee, and I need it instantly. So that's why I go to blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. And I get the 32 count box of premium instant coffee. And it really is premium, folks. It really is premium. And if you've tried instant coffee in the past, you probably tried it and you just didn't like it. You thought, it doesn't taste like coffee. It doesn't deliver that punch. It's watered down. It's not good. And you probably said, I tried it. I'm out. Try it again. This time from my friends at blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. And you'll find out what premium instant coffee actually means. Remember, coupon code Owen, 20% off your first order at blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. All right, I've got a big stack of the geopolitical here on my desk. But I think, well, maybe we'll get into it now. Maybe we'll get into the geopolitical now. I think we're going to debut a new segment today. It's called the Presidential Update. I think we'll debut that segment today. It's demanded by popularity. It's not backed by popular demand. It's demanded by popular approval. The Presidential Update. What am I talking about? Well, stick around and find out. I'll tell you what, let's go to the geopolitical. I got a lot of geopolitical here. So let's knock this out. We are going to be learning more of the supposed peace deal. Europe, they're cut out. They're cut out of the process. Here's Lavrov talking about it.
The Minsk process was the talks between Russia and Ukraine with the mediation from France and Germany, as they believe. Now we don't see any mediation possible from France or Germany. The Minsk process.
So, in other words, they don't trust. Russia doesn't trust the Europeans. Russia doesn't trust the Europeans, and it trusts Trump at least more than the Europeans to try to get a deal done. Okay? And so we've heard some of the details about this. By the way, I'll post this on my X account later. It just came out. But Zelensky just did some video, I guess, addressing the peace deals. You can't even believe it, but there's no denying it. It's right in the video. He either snot rockets a booger right at the camera, or he shoots out a clump of cocaine. Okay, I'll post that on my X. I'm not gonna scroll through it and take the time to try to present it here. I'll post it on my X after the show. Okay, well, either way, it's not a good look. That's Zelensky for you. He's got to get good. You'd think he's getting good stuff, though, right? I mean, it's got to be some good coke. Trump says very close to Ukraine peace deal, but Europe remains cautious. Yeah, Europe doesn't want it. They want the war to continue. They want the NATO spending to continue. Trump, visibly frustrated at his failure to make good on last year's election boast that he could quickly end the war, said we're getting very close to a deal. Now, it does appear that Trump is feeling like this is the last shot, and if Ukraine doesn't want to do it, if Europe doesn't want to do it, then we're done. So it's like, I don't want the war to continue. I don't want the death to continue. But then part of me is like, from a selfish policy standpoint, it's almost like, okay, if they reject the peace deal, then Trump's response is what? We're cutting all the aid. We're going to do a very strict audit as best we can of where the money and where the weapons went. And we're going to reconsider our entire involvement in NATO, and maybe we're going to go ahead and just leave NATO as well. I'd like to see those results. And if those results follow Ukraine rejecting the peace deal, you hate to cheer against peace. And so you can't. You can't do it. You can't cheer against peace. We're all cheering for peace. Let's hope the war stops and the death stops. All right. But should it fail to land this peace deal, I could see the results being good. No more aid to Ukraine. We're going to do a forensic audit of all the aid that went there, and we're going to reconsider our involvement with NATO. Now, we should do all of that anyway. We should do all of that whether the peace deal holds or not. But I feel like the likelihood of those things happening if the peace deal falls apart probably increase. But it should be happening either way. Now, this was reported this morning. Ukraine agrees to peace deal, U.S. officials say. Some minor details of Russia-Ukraine peace agreement still to be decided, official notes. Now, apparently this is where there is a rub here. It's that the U.S. wants to know what happened with the aid. They don't want too much. They're not looking to pull short hairs here, but they want to know what happened to the money. They want to know how the money was spent, because in part of the deal, they're looking for a return. They're looking for some way to return that value to the American people. So they kind of want to see where the money was at, where it's at, if they can recoup some of it, whatever. And Ukraine is saying, no way. They're saying no way. So in other words, Ukraine is saying, hey, we stole the money and we don't want you to find out. That's how it's going. Ukraine reportedly agrees to U.S. brokered peace proposal. Reports cited unnamed U.S. and Ukrainian officials suggested a deal had been reached during talks in Abu Dhabi, the UAE, on Tuesday. So that was why it was being reported this morning. The minor details, the framework is that they don't want you to find out where the money went. They don't want you to find out where all of those tax dollars went. Now, this is from the Wall Street Journal covering it. A senior U.S. official said that Ukraine significantly changed one of the 28 points in the version that appeared online in an apparent move to expose alleged corruption. The draft had called for an audit of all international aid Ukraine had received. The language was changed to say all parties will receive, quote, full amnesty for their actions during the war. They want to get away with the money laundering. Will the Trump administration agree to that? Will it even matter? Could that be the holdup? Imagine the peace deal being squandered because the Ukrainians refuse to allow you to investigate their money laundering crimes. which is what appears is going to be the snag right now. That appears to be the snag. We'll continue to follow this. Trump signs executive order targeting certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as terrorist groups. So, this has been the major push of the Israeli lobby. They've really wanted this. You've seen the digital influence campaigns that are very well funded to support this. Well, you can ask, where are the Muslim Brotherhood chapters? Well, they're all in Egypt, folks. They're in Egypt. They're not in America. The biggest one is in Egypt, and then they have one in Jordan and Lebanon for possible designation. So it's not even in America. Not even in America. So another issue of a foreign country that we have to deal with. And all the people celebrating this, oh, we got them. Oh, the dirty Muslims. Oh, the Muslim Brotherhood. All the digital influencers paid to promote that stuff. None of them are reporting that this designation doesn't apply to any group in the United States. Not one. Not a single one. Aren't you just sick of it? Aren't you just sick of the Middle Easternization of our politics? Aren't you just sick of the fact that American politics have become Middle East politics, and the same issues the Middle East has been dealing with for centuries are now engulfing our political discussion? Here's the latest in that development. Qatar pumping tens of billions of dollars into universities to help Muslim Brotherhood weaken the United States and destroy democracy. Oh, here we go. And then what is the first sentence of the story in the New York Post? What is the first sentence? Qatar has allegedly pumped more than $20 billion into American colleges and other top institutions as part of the Muslim Brotherhood's decades-long plan to infiltrate the U.S. and destroy democracy from within. A leading research institute warns. What leading institute? You don't even cite it. While adding that the nefarious funding could be staggeringly higher. Allegedly $20 billion, but could be higher. This is all innuendo. It's all innuendo. I would love to see some actual credible, show me anything. Show me where the money is going. Show me the Muslim Islamification of a college university. Show me the actual results. Hey, foreign countries spending money to influence our politics, I'm against it, by the way. But it's ironic that the very people that love foreign money pouring into our politics to control our foreign policy, they just pick and choose when they want it. They just pick and choose what foreign money is good, what foreign money is bad. Now, you could argue that's fair enough. To me, you're either against foreign influence or you're not. I don't really care about the direction. But maybe you do. All right. Tell me, what is the actual application of this? They have nothing. They just say it. They literally just make it up. And then they say, okay, give us something. So they say the Qatari regime has donated a staggering $10 billion to Cornell University over the years. Small alleged. This is the investigator. Alleged. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Could be at least 100 billion. So what are the results? What is happening? They say, oh, it's all these protests. No, it's not. Prove it. And I kind of find it funny. So, in other words, Qatar is injecting billions of dollars into the U.S. economy, while Israel is stealing billions of dollars from the U.S. economy. Which would you prefer? Would you prefer Israel take $1 billion, or would you prefer Qatar give $1 billion? Just asking. Just asking. I'm sick of both of it. I'm sick of all of it. So now you have Barry Weiss at the Jewish Leadership Conference. Probably not the best place to do this, Barry. She says that they're going to decide who gets to speak in American politics and who doesn't. But if you suggest that this is happening at this conference, you're obviously a bigot, even though here it is.
All of us see the moment that we're in. And all of us see that the choices that it feels like.
Hold on. Are you hearing this? Is this Kamala Harris talking? Is this, I'm sorry, I'm hearing Kamala Harris. Am I listening to Barry Weiss or am I listening to Kamala Harris? This sounds like Kamala Harris talking.
All of us see the moment that we're in. And all of us see that the choices that it feels like we have sometimes, which is Hassan Piker and Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes and, Andrew Tate, the kind of people that are rising in the podcast charts, those don't actually represent our values. And I don't think that they represent the values and the worldview of the vast majority of Americans. And so this is an opportunity to
And who does? You?
Speak for the 75%, for the people that are on the center left and the center right that still believe in equality of opportunity, that still believe passionately in the American.
This is Kamala Harris. I'm listening to Kamala Harris. Barry Kamala Harris Weiss.
Project that still believe in all of the things that everyone in this room believes in, which is liberty and freedom and individual responsibility. And
this is the $100 million woman. What did she get? What was her deal? This is Kamala Harris. There is no difference. If this was Kamala Harris talking, you wouldn't know any different. Barry Kamala Harris Weiss, except worth $100 million or whatever she got.
And in the most basic level,
both want to censor speech, both want to control speech, both want to decide who gets to talk, who doesn't, both pretend to be intellectual, both pretend to be philosophical, and then they talk and they sound like a drunk wine ant.
Right to know what is actually going on in the world. Not the world as propagandists and ideologues imagine it to be, but what's actually going on in the world and in your community.
And then they're there to tell you what's going on in the world, even though it goes against everything that you're seeing. So it's like, here's what you're actually seeing. Here's what's actually going on. And then here's Barry Kamala Harris Weiss to tell you, no, it's not. I know.
So you can make decisions about where to send your kids to school, about where to live, and about how to vote. That used to just be normal.
Is this torture? Am I torturing my audience? This is torture. I shouldn't be allowed to do this. I'm torturing you. This is literally Kamala Harris. This is about as cringe as Kamala Harris. Barry Harris Weiss. I don't know, folks, I don't know how much longer I can take this. I'm going to be honest. I'm dying. This is like nails on a chalkboard cringe. This is Kamala Harris cringe level. I don't know if I can. I'm struggling a minute 10 in here. She's about to get to the censorship part. She's about to get to the part where they want to decide who gets to speak and who doesn't at the Jewish Leadership Conference. Great place to do that, by the way. Great site, great background, considering everything going on. Great timing, I'd say. Great optics of that. Barry Harris Weiss. I don't know if I can make it, guys. I don't know if I can make it. Can we make it through this? Can we power through this? I'm dying here.
And the goal of what we're trying to do at CBS is to get back to that normalcy. And I feel incredibly energized and enthusiastic because I think that is where the vast majority of Americans actually are.
Sure.
Well,
thank you.
So that articulation of that set of goals
This is just this is the woke right. Here you got a stage of the woke right. You guys want to see the woke right? You're looking at it right here. This is the woke right.
Speak into the lives of the 75%. How are you going to do that? What's your strategy for success?
So I think one of the problems is a lot of people have tried to do centrist news.
Here she goes. Here comes Kamala Harris, Barry Weiss again.
I know this because I am like the target audience for those things. And the reason that they have all failed is,
could you be hotter or something? Like, this sucks. You're not even good to look at. You're ugly. You're boring. You're like watching paint dry. You're like listening to nails on a chalkboard. How did you get $100 million for your work? What is your job?
it's like trying to force feed spinach down someone's throat, right? It's felt very like tofu, oatmeal. It's like centrist news is choosing the midpoint between every single top.
What is she even talking about? Oh my God.
Like it's felt like an absence of charisma and identity.
Yeah, you are the lack. You are about as milquetoast as it gets. You are like You are like the physical representation of a female NPC. And now you're as cringe as Kamala Harris. By the way, what do all of these people have in common? Oh, they're all Jewish. Well, I guess. That's not what I'm talking about. They're all up here to promote a singular issue. They're all up here to promote a singular issue. And you notice all of the names that they bring up that need to be censored, all of the names that they bring up that need to be removed from the conversation, they're all against the U.S. foreign policy. This is the entire purpose here, folks, is to prop up the U.S. foreign policy, which is run by Israel and supported by Israel. Let's try to quantify this real quick. So people would say that the woke left is what? The radical left, the extreme left? So the woke right would be the extreme right. What is the most right-wing extremist regime on the planet right now? Who is the most hardcore right-wing leader in the world today? It's Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel is the most far-right extremist nation state on the planet right now. It is quite literally a religious ethno-state. And Benjamin Netanyahu is a religious ethno-nationalist. The current Israeli regime under Netanyahu is the most far-right religious ethno-nationalist regime on the planet. You guys are the extreme right, which is ironic in a way because, you know, the people that she's talking about censoring here, they would actually support if America had a leader that was like Netanyahu, an extreme right leader that was an extreme nationalist and an extreme identity leader. I don't know if you would say a religious ethno-nationalist, but they'd probably support that. If America actually had a religious ethno-nationalist, that would be considered far right. That would be considered right-wing extremist, which these people that she wants to censor would probably actually support. But that's the irony. They want their own nationalist leader. They don't want Israel's nationalist leader influencing American politics. So the entire purpose of this podium here is to silence dissent on U.S. foreign policy. So all these Americans that are standing up there, they're all operatives for the Israeli foreign policy agenda. That is this entire thing. And the whole purpose of Barry Weiss now is to make sure that any voices of opposition to U.S. foreign policy get censored. That's what this whole thing is about. She's about to land this plane. See if you can deal with the cringe.
And I, as nostalgic as people might be for an era in which 30 million Americans every night watch Walter Cronkite and saw him as the voice of truth, and I understand why they're nostalgic for that. We're not going back to that. So how do you build trust in a moment of unbelievably low trust in all of our public institutions, especially the mainstream press? I don't think it's by pretending like we can go back to having a view from nowhere. I think it's about who's in the room, right? I think it's about redrawing the lines of what falls in the 40-yard lines of acceptable debate and acceptable American politics and culture. And I don't mean that in like a censorious gatekeeping way. I mean,
that's exactly what you mean, because that's exactly what you're saying, and that's the actual application of it.
People that are clearly identifiably on the center left and on the center right in conversation with each other. And we've been doing so much of this at the Free Press. I was in, where was I? Chicago last week, I think. I've lost all track of time, where Dana Lash, former spokeswoman from the NRA, was debating Alan Dershowitz on guns. Now, these are people that have wildly different opinions on the Second Amendment, and yet showing that they can have.
But you will promote both of them because they both support the current U.S. foreign policy. There it is, folks. There it is. How much do you think this conference costs to put together? How much money is spent on this propaganda to keep the U.S. foreign policy going? The low approval rating U.S. foreign policy that doesn't benefit the United States of America and only benefits one country. And it's not ours. How much do you think this deal costs?
Of good faith, very passionate, very charismatic disagreement and still like each other at the end of the day, we think it's important. And so for me, it's always about
But who's the one up here saying you can't like someone? Who's the one up here saying you can't get along with these people? That's you. So that is the epitome of hyperbole right here from Barry Harris Weiss.
Curation, like who's in the room? How are you showing centrist news not as the absence of disagreement and the absence of charisma, but explicitly charismatic and disagreeable, and yet doing it in good faith? And the other way you do it is, by being really honest with your audience. Like,
yeah, let's hear some honesty from you. Let's hear some honesty from you. What do you really support? What are you really up here to do? How did you really land the $100 million gig? You could do a panel. You could do this panel 100 times. 100 times. And you could do one panel one time, the name she mentions, Hassan Piker, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and Andrew Tate. You could do that panel of those four people one time, and it'd get 100 million views. You could do this panel of Barry Weiss, Ben Shapiro, and that other guy 100 times, and it wouldn't even get 1 million views. You guys suck. You're corrupt. You're frauds. Nobody likes you. You're boring. We look at you as foreign agents of a foreign country to propagandize the American people. And now we're going to brand her now. This is Barry Harris Weiss. She is just as cringe. Tell me that wasn't like listening to Kamala Harris. Tell me that Barry Weiss isn't as cringeworthy to listen to as Kamala Harris. She's basically the exact same thing. She talks a bunch and says nothing. Talks a bunch and says nothing. Barry Harris Weiss. How are we doing over there in Europe? Sex attack horror as young Italian couple are surrounded by 3 migrants who smash into their car and force boyfriend to watch as they rape his 18-year-old fiance. That's nice. Those nice, loving migrants from Morocco, a result of the liberal policies, a result of the destabilization of these regions because of bad foreign policy. Yeah. How are we doing in the UK? Well, they're upset. They didn't do enough for COVID. That's what they're saying. There wasn't enough. UK did too little, too late, leading to thousands more COVID deaths, says inquiry. They didn't do enough, folks. So now they're going to do more. They're preparing to do more. Are they getting ready to launch another pandemic? Schools locked down again in secret pandemic drills. Exercise Pegasus. Imagined a virus deadly to children spreading around the world from an island in Southeast Asia. Schools across the UK were locked down this autumn as part of a state drill to tackle the threat of a new deadly virus. Why are you locking people down in a school for an outbreak? Does that even make sense? What are you preparing for here? So what, you're now in prison, in school, if what, somebody gets sick? Somebody who's sick in South Asia, we're locking you in. You live here now. You're in prison now in your school. What? I can't go home because of a virus? That's pretty scary. Secret drill to prepare for another pandemic saw ministers admitting they'd close schools again. Yeah, they're going to lock you in. Somebody got sick. You can't even go home. All right. 2025 has been a wild year, but you might have actually had this on your bingo card. As crazy as this sounds, this is so 2025, isn't it? Politician named Adolf Hitler set to win election in Southern African country. Stop it. Stop it. The Black Hitler? A politician called Adolf Hitler is set to win a local election in his home country, but claimed his father had no idea about the Nazi leader's significance when he named his son. How do you name your son Adolf Hitler if you don't know about Adolf Hitler? That in Namibia, of all countries. Like, okay, maybe in a European country, maybe you end up with the name Adolf Hitler. Maybe. But in Namibia, I'm not buying it. So Hitler is now going to be Adolf Hitler. Oh my gosh. Is he the president? Is it President Hitler in Namibia? You might have actually had that. That's one you might have actually had on your bingo card for 2025. So check that one off. Oh, here's another one. Here's another 2025 bingo winner. World's Strongest Woman winner stripped of title after organizers discover she was a man. That's a big man. Jamie Booker. Booker T. I saw this. Booker T is now competing in female weightlifting. No, it's not Booker T. Only in the 21st century can the female weightlifting champion be a man. Revoked, though. Revoked. Maybe there's hope. Maybe there's hope. All right. How do we feel about these stories that keep popping up, maybe? They get propped up. They pop up. They get propped up. Fire chief's wife allegedly flashed 14-year-old volunteer firefighter and said she wanted to have sex with him when he turned 18. A fire chief's wife allegedly flashed her boobs and privates. What? Flashed the privates? What are we talking about here? At a 14-year-old junior firefighter and told him she wanted them to have sex when he turned 18, according to police. Nathan Turner, the then chief of Fair Oaks Volunteer Fire Department in Leet Township, Pennsylvania, was busted alongside his wife, Stephanie Ann Turner, after investigators found disturbing text messages they shared about their inappropriate behavior, according to court documents. The boy, a volunteer firefighter, junior firefighter, had treated the chief and his wife like parents until the wife started hitting on him and discussing hopes they'd eventually have sex, according to these documents. She also once walked around topless when the boy visited their Leet home and even yanked down her pants and flashed her privates, according to court documents that said she joked about it with her husband. You literally took your pants off in front of him, the fire chief texted his wife last summer. Yes, I did, she admitted. What the hell? The incriminating I mean, I guess it could happen once, right? I mean, it's a big country, 300 plus million people. It's got to happen once, you know? Somewhere it's happening. Yeah, we're walking around naked. Is it a crime? Is it a crime to be naked in your own home? The incriminating texts were allegedly found when Nathan Turner's phones was seized as part of the investigation of a theft from the Sewaukee Water Authority, where he'd worked before the fire department. The Turners were both charged with corruption of minors, unlawful contact with a minor, indecent exposure, harassment, open lewdness, and criminal conspiracy. My God! The fire department said it has no comment. That's good. Regarding the allegations described as concerning and serious, Mr. Turner and his wife are no longer associated with the department and no longer participate in any capacity with the department. Mr. Turner resigned as chief in August of 2025 and has not participated in any capacity in the department since his resignation. All right. How do we feel about this stuff? How do we feel about this stuff? Look, we all stand against sexualizing minors. All right. Let's be clear. And women, I guess, can be pedophiles too. But can we at least admit that it's different when it's a young boy? Can we admit it's different? It's different, folks. It's different. Oh my gosh. I mean, you call it inappropriate. Maybe it crossed the boundaries of it being illegal. I don't know. We'll see what happens in this court case. A 14-year-old seeing some woman flash her breast. I mean, come on. If she actually forced him to have sex or something like that, then maybe, okay, now we're getting into this is getting bad. But it's just like, you keep seeing these stories. Teachers. It's like, so where do we draw the line? I can go to a Mardi Gras celebration in how many different cities? At 14, I can walk around the streets of a Mardi Gras celebration and I can see how many women flashing their breasts and rubbing them around. Nobody's getting charged with a crime. Nobody's the victim. Again, I don't know. This case, maybe there's some other stuff that makes it worse. But I'm sitting here, I'm like, all right, I remember being a 14-year-old boy. I remember hitting on the lifeguards at the pool that were probably 18 or older. If one of them decided to flash their breasts to me when I was 14, I don't think I'd call the police. And I think if anybody decided to get law enforcement involved, I'd beg them not to. Now, maybe when you get the teachers and the students, you're crossing some boundaries there too. But it's just like, can we stop pretending like a 14-year-old boy is the victim of being flashed? Can we just stop this? A 14-year-old boy getting flashed, it used to be like nice. It used to be just like nice. I don't know. That's a weird deal. That's a weird deal. But I don't know. Do you think the 14-year-old boy getting to see some boobies, is this really such a big crime? I'm not so sure. You know what? I'm not going to get too much into this right now, but folks, the Florida governor's race is starting to get really interesting. Okay. The Florida's governor race is really starting to get interesting. And I'm somebody that's liked Byron Donalds, and I think he's a good politician for whatever that means. But things are getting real interesting down there. I think that this race might actually get competitive now with some of the stuff that's going on. And James Fishback, who has officially filed to run, that's an America First candidate right there. That is a strong candidate right there. And so even somebody like Byron Donalds, who you'd think would be untouchable easily to win this race, things just got a little more interesting down there in Florida. I don't care to get into the details quite yet, but things are getting real weird. And there's apparently a Corey Mills connection now too. Whoa. That deal, I have a feeling that deal is going to get a lot weirder, folks. Meanwhile, and I guess, Candace Owens just announced she's taking the week off, I saw today. Telegram CEO backs Candace Owens' claim about French involvement in Charlie Kirk murder. Now, remember, Telegram CEO Pavel Durov, he was arrested in France. They took him in. It looked like he might have gotten a honeypot situation in France. He flew there to meet some hottie, and they ended up arresting him, and they forced him essentially to relinquish control of Telegram to the state. So basically now, Telegram is no longer private. They arrested Durov and told him that he better relinquish the privacy settings of Telegram over to the state, and they would release him. And then that's what happened. So he has a little bit of experience with the French. And he now says that Owens' claim about France's role in Charlie Kirk's death is entirely plausible. Now, folks, the whole thing is crazy. Okay. And what ends up happening is when you run with an official narrative that just doesn't make any sense or is just outright impossible, which is how I would describe the official narrative of Charlie Kirk's murder. I would say it's just outright impossible. I would say it's not possible for Tyler Robinson to have taken that shot with a 30-06 for multiple reasons. So I don't believe the official narrative. I'd say it's literally impossible. So when you have an official narrative that is literally impossible, the conspiracy theories go all kinds of different directions. All kinds of different directions. Now, I will just say this. Now, I'm not saying I buy this. So just to be clear, I'm not saying that I'm buying this, but I will say this. After this happened, I had a military source, let's say. I don't know if I'd consider them a source, but let's just say a military source that is really ahead of the curve on a lot of things, and has fed me some stuff before that I doubted that ended up coming true. And every time it's like, I think you're nuts. And they feed me something and I'm like, yeah, I think you're nuts. And then it ends up coming true. This person reached out to me the week after Charlie's murder and said they thought it was the French. I kid you not. Now, of course, I didn't take that to air because I thought it was nuts, and I might still think it's nuts. But this person has been ahead of the curve on other things before. I've thought this person has been crazy with things suggested to me before that ended up coming true. And I was told that the week after that they said it's probably France. And I said, you're nuts. And now all of a sudden it pops up 2 months later. That's weird. That's weird. We're almost through everything here. All right, let's do this. And we're going to debut the new presidential update. We'll see if you like it. We're going to try something new today with the presidential update. Eric Trump is giving a tour of his Bitcoin mining facility. Here, let's go to Eric here. Listen to this. American Bitcoin. I think that's his company here. They're doing well. Check it out.
Hey friends, Eric Trump. Welcome to American Bitcoin. It's a little sneak peek of our facility in Texas using American energy to mine Bitcoin right here on American soil. We could not be more proud of this facility. 35,000 of these servers right here, all liquid cooled, securing the network, mining Bitcoin. Every single day we mine about 2% of the world's Bitcoin supply, and we safeguard it every single day. So when people say that cryptocurrency is intangible, it's not. It's very tangible. And this right here, guys, is living proof. Hey friends, Eric Trump.
All right, so how do you feel about that? Now, I like Eric. I like Eric and Laura, actually. I'm curious to see if they ever have any political aspirations. I do like them. But, you know, the whole Bitcoin mining thing and the Trump family benefiting from it, I think it's a little controversial. And I'm not insinuating anything, you know, too substantial or negative here, but I think it's fair that it is controversial. But aside from whatever you think might be controversial about the Trumps being involved with Bitcoin, you know, he talks about the American energy. Folks, do you have any idea how much energy this is taking? The amount of energy now with the quantum computing, the AI data centers, the Bitcoin mining, the crypto mining, the water it takes, the amount of water and the amount of energy that all this technology is taking is like, it's not really being reported on. I mean, it is astronomical, folks. Astronomical. The amount of energy, the amount of water that AI, quantum computing, and crypto mining, the amount of energy it's taking, astronomical. What are we doing? What are we doing to supplement that? Doesn't seem that we're thinking about it. So your energy costs are going to go up. And don't be surprised if your water costs start to go up as well. I'd like to see a solution. It'll likely end up coming from Elon Musk. They seem to have all the solutions. The Boring Company to open first airport tunnel in Las Vegas by Q1 2026. I like that. We need more tunnels. Less traffic, more tunnels. They get into some of the numbers here. For travelers, the biggest immediate benefit will be speed and cost. The Boring Company is targeting pricing that undercuts traditional ride-hailing services by a wide margin. Trips from downtown Las Vegas to the airport are expected to cost only $12 and take around 8 minutes, while rides from the airport to the Las Vegas Convention Center will cost $10, with a travel time of just 5 minutes. If you've ever been to Vegas, as they talk about here, it can easily take 20 to 40 minutes, these same trips. Folks, Vegas traffic is wild. I think that's part of the reason also why the Vegas tourism economy is dying, because the traffic is just so bad. Just trying to get a ride. You'll wait an hour sometimes just to get a ride. More solutions from Elon Musk. They say they can transport about 20,000 people an hour. I want more boring. More excitement for boring is what I want. Man, these guys need to hire me for PR. More excitement for boring. for their catchphrase. You're welcome. That's $1 million right there. I'm a genius. Put it on a T-shirt. All right, I got a couple other odds and ends, but we're going to debut a new segment today. It's called the Presidential Update, and it's popular and demanded. It's demanded by popular support. It's not backed by popular demand. It's demanded by popular backing. So this is going to be the debut. We're going to see how this one goes. But it's been demanded of us to do a presidential update on some of the things that you're not hearing coming from the White House. So get ready for the first presidential update here on the Owen Report.
We now go live to the White House with an update from your president.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Well, as you know, my administration has been doing more than any administration ever in the history of the world to promote peace and to end wars. And today we have maybe one of the biggest announcements yet. We have ended. Are you listening, Nobel Peace Laureates? Are you listening? We have ended one of the biggest wars. This one has been nasty, okay? But we've finally done it. Only Trump could do this. So here you are in the Oval Office, and you'll see to my left, you're going to see proud member and leader of the Crips gang in Los Angeles. That's right. Leroy Jenkins here representing the Crips, and also standing next to him, obviously in red, is Ronnie Jackson Coleman. Look at Ronnie right there. There they are, the Crips and the Bloods, folks. Your favorite president. We're negotiating peace all over the world and sometimes in our backyard. Nobody could do this deal, but we're doing it. And we have finally got a peace deal between the Crips and the Bloods. How about that? You learn a lot. You learn a lot about these fine gentlemen right here. They actually have a lot in common. These two gang members. Both grew up tough. Little rough and tumble. Tough neighborhoods. They both grew up tough. Ronnie grew up slanging rock. That's what they call it, right? They were slanging rock on the corner. And Leroy, he thought he would be a basketball star growing up, but instead he stabbed someone at the mall and stole his tennis shoes. You did 5 years for that, didn't you, Leroy? 5 years, yeah. But here they are now in a monumental peace deal to bring the Crips and the Bloods together. You know, there was a lot of bloodshed between these guys, and they would say they were the bad guys. Now they're the good guys, getting peace. It was actually easier to get this peace deal done, believe it or not. This one was easy. Compared to the Middle East. That one's tough. That one's tough. We'll see. We signed these deals. We got these peace deals done, and there's no peace. You try to get a peace deal done with the Israelis, and they just 24 hours later, they're killing again. So let's see. Let's see if the Crips and the Bloods have a little more restraint than the Netanyahu regime that can't go more than 24 hours without more bloodshed. Let's see, Ronnie, Leroy, do you think you guys can restrain yourselves from the killing and the raping and the pillaging a little bit better than the Israelis? Let's find out. I always actually preferred the Bloods, but that's because they wear Republican red. But actually, we looked at the numbers, and the Crips, you voted Trump, didn't you? The Crips voted Trump. Not so sure what was wrong with you guys in red, the Blood. You should have been voting Trump, but you didn't. No. But you're both here now, getting peace deals done. They have assured me, the Crips and the Bloods have assured me that this peace deal will sustain for both the World Cup and the Olympics. Very important to this administration, so we thank them for that. So now foreigners can come here, and they don't have to deal with the horrors of gang violence in America. Now, some might say that they're missing out on some classic Los Angeles culture and tradition of gang violence, but we're gonna try to stop it here. If it was up to Newsom, if it was up to Gavin Newsom, that's what I call him, guys, right? Newsom. These travelers could potentially watch their loved ones get stabbed or mugged or raped or kidnapped in the streets of California like so many others, but we will perhaps spare them this time. Right, guys? Right, Gavin? I think so. I am also cutting a $40 trillion investment deal with these gang leaders to hunt down any foreign gang members that are in our country. We got to take them out. We got to take them out. We got to take them out hard. So we're calling in the gangbangers, the American ones, the good ones. We don't want the Venezuelan ones. No, we don't want the Mexican ones. We want the good, all-American gangbangers. $40 trillion. So we want you to treat these foreign gang members with the same brutality you have treated each other with for so many years. Anything is fair game here, guys, as long as they're foreigners. Rape, murder, kidnapping, go ahead. Snuff films, whatever you want. Just get those damn illegals. Get them the hell out of here. Get their gang members out of here, too. Backed with the support of Tom Homan, our new Crip Blood Enforcement Wing will also extend its services to Venezuela, where eventually we hope to just give them the country, right? We'll give you guys the country. We'll just let the Crips and Bloods run it. You guys can enrich yourselves as much as you want. The Venezuelan women, you might like them. The drugs, I heard they're good. We blew some of them up, but the ones that are left, pretty good. We just want the oil. That's all we ask, guys, right? You give us the oil. Thank you very much. And finally, we will be creating an endowment fund so that you can attend college and get that degree that you guys have long sought for. That's right. You guys wanted to go to college, didn't you? Yeah, we're going to take care of you. We'll send you to the same schools the Chinese are at. We're going to bail them out. And we'll use the tariff money to do it, I think. We'll find a way. We'll find a way to get it taken care of. We got to bail out the colleges. So we want to thank our new friends here from the Crips and the Bloods, Leroy Jenkins and Ronnie Jackson Coleman. Hey, guys, try not to steal anything from the White House, all right, on your way out, all right? And we saw you eyeing Halligan over there, okay? I don't know if she's single or not, but she needs to be focused on a case, guys. Let's not catch another one, huh? All right. We're getting peace deals done left and right. Nobody could do it. Nobody could do it like Trump. It's the Crips and the Bloods. And so now we have a deal. There will be no violence during the World Cup or during the Olympics. Only Trump could do it. And they will be soon invading Venezuela. We need somebody to take out Maduro. We can't have him there anymore. We're going to take the oil. You guys can have the country. Whatever else is there, it's all yours. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the press. This has been your presidential update. Wow, that's big news. Big news from the White House. They got a deal done, a peace deal between the Crips and the Bloods. Who saw that coming, guys? So there you go. There's your presidential update. What do you guys think? Would you like me to do that more, or is it too goofy for you? Is that too much for you? So there you go. All right. Here, we'll sign off with this. The Pope, had DJ Padre Guilherme. They had a rave. They had a rave at the Vatican. I'm not even kidding you. They had a rave at the Vatican for this Pope's 75th birthday. You guys want to see the sights and the sounds from the rave here? Here you go.
Of Almighty God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit come upon you and remain with you always. Amen.
Oh my God. It's not even like progressive house. It's like straight up trance. We got a rave. All right. How do you feel about the papal rave? How do you feel about the Vatican rave? You know what? If it was like progressive house or more, traditional progressive EDM, I think that it could be a little more palatable. But to do trance, like dub trance like that, that's like, no, doesn't vibe. Trance and dubstep are like demonic sounding. Progressive house and EDM is at least like uplifting and fun. So it's kind of missing it. It's kind of a cool scene. Would you go? I'd go to a EDM show at the Vatican. Of course I would. That might be the one thing that would motivate me to go there. Unless I can investigate the catacombs and see all the hidden history there. That'd be the other reason. All right. Anything else we want to address here before we sign off? Oh, boy. We covered that. I don't really want to get in on that. I think we've covered enough of that. I don't want to touch that. Male students show more tolerance for political enemies than females show for their own allies, according to a recent study. Does that surprise anybody? What's up with that, by the way? Why are bros able to be bros, but hoes can't even get along with their best friends? What's up with that? What's up with the ladies out there? You know? I mean, we even got the Crips and the Bloods coming together, but these women, they're so catty. They're always at each other's throats. Study shows that male rivals, get along better than female friends. How do you explain that one? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a feeling there's going to be some drama in the next 24 hours to next week. Now, before we sign off, we will be live tomorrow. We will be doing our normal transmission tomorrow. We will be off for Thanksgiving and for Friday. So after tomorrow's broadcast, the Owen Report will be off till Monday. If there's anything big that we need to cover, we'll come on here and cover it. Make sure you follow us on X for any other breaking news developments as well. I want to do this before we sign off. The Gulf of America hat that I'm wearing is exclusively available. If you like this hat today, if you want to check it out, give it to someone for a gift. Exclusively available at owenschroyer.store. The Gulf of America hat that I'm wearing today, you can get at owenschroyer.store. I think do we have multiple colors? Yeah, we got a black version. We got a navy version. I'm, of course, wearing the white version today. To match my white Owen Report polo, which is on the site somewhere. I don't know. We put all the products back up at the site, so it looks like this thing kind of got maybe forced down to the bottom here. But you can find this. The site is going to be revamped next year, by the way. So if you like the stuff that's on the site, you might want to get it now. I don't think I don't know if this shirt. I think that the two polos, the Win Network polo and the Owen Report polo, I think are going to be revamped for next year. So if you like these, get them before the end of the year, because I think we're going to revamp the store on the other side. So if you like that hat, if you like this polo, owenschroyer.store. That's going to do it for the Owen Report. Thanks for tuning in. We'll take a 21-hour break, and we'll do it all again tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Godspeed, and God bless.